Thank you, Ali. Public sector workers are getting a small amount of what they really deserve. Right-wingers on 2 times, 10 times, 100 times what teachers and train drivers earn are telling us we can't afford it. It's the only song they know. Meanwhile, in America, Donald Trump's billionaire backers are pulling what's left of their hair out as their candidate seems to be regressing to a childlike state. If he keeps going on like this, they'll have to swap his golf cart for a pram. And Liz Truss becomes a comedy critic and is just as successful as that as she has been at everything else she's tried. That and more coming up with me, Nick Abbot, afternoon news at 10 on LBC.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
Leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC. This is LBC from Global. Leading Britain's conversation with Nick Abbot.
Hello, boys. Well, let's get back to it.
Man United and Fulham was 0-0 after 86 minutes.
Boring.
Ugh, it's back. It always comes back a bit too soon for my taste because it reeks of autumn and it feels like summer is just slipping through our fingers. After the UK faced the hottest day of the year so far on Monday, dry and pleasant conditions will continue this weekend as temperatures are expected to hit 25 degrees centigrade. And I will translate European surrender centigrade into His Majesty's Fahrenheit. It is perfectly simple. An idiot could do it. You just double it and add 32. So 25 times 2 is 75. 75 plus 32 is 142 degrees Fahrenheit this weekend. Can you believe that?
No.
But... and it's a huge but. The Met Office has warned the upcoming weekend will be the last good weather for a while as wet and windy conditions are expected to move in next week.
Talks on creating a sea...
Oh, that's my fault entirely. Did you want more news?
No.
Because we've got some. I mean, I can give you as much as you can stand. By the time we get to Monday, there's going to be a change. Sunday will be all right. Sunday will be settled with sunshine, temperatures in the mid-20s, though sporadic showers are forecast for some parts. And I think we know which part in particular. I mean, I could check on that while you wait, but really, what's the point? Oh, nothing. Please wait. We know you are waiting. Your request is important to us. Please wait. Why am I waiting? There is no weather, according to my app. Oh, there it is. Blimey, that took forever. Not that I'm complaining or anything.
Whinging and whining and moaning.
All right, here's the weather forecast for Glasgow. It's raining at the moment in Glasgow. And if it's not raining right now where you are, then it will be shortly. Believe me. Saturday. What? Not raining? Or Sunday? Pfft, rubbish. But it will be raining quite heavily on Monday. Heavy rain and a moderate breeze on Monday. Raining on Tuesday, raining on Wednesday, raining on Thursday, raining on Friday, raining on Saturday, raining on Sunday. I'm not making this up. You may get a day off on Monday. May. Oh, no, it will be raining first thing in the morning, and it'll be raining on Tuesday, raining on Wednesday. Every day for the rest of your lives.
Oh, no.
Well, that's your fault. You deliberately chose to live there. Met Office forecaster Tom said there was no strong signal for anything hot returning for the rest of August.
What?
Yeah. That's, that could be summer gone. Well, let's find out, shall we? Would you like to hear the long-range forecast for the next 4 weeks?
No.
Right, from now until the end of August. Unsettled for many at the start of this period. Outbreaks of rain most likely across northwestern parts of the UK. Southeast, drier and sunnier. Temperatures overall probably be close to average, but with the chance of some short-lived, very warm conditions in the south and the east. And then it will be over. Autumn begins in 2 weeks. What? Yes, it's practically Jesus' birthday. Don't it come around quick? Right, so the first 2 weeks of September, you ready? This could be the difference between a great summer and a terrible summer. First 2 weeks of September, at first settled and drier than average. By mid-September, continued drier periods and warm in the southeast. Drier periods and warm in the southeast? We'll take it. Tom says, did you see that video of Liz Truss giving a talk while a banner of a lettuce descends saying, I crashed the economy? She then storms off saying that's not funny. Well, I've been giving this some thought, says Tom, and I have come to the following inescapable conclusion. I think it was a little bit funny. No, Tom. It was very, very funny. Liz Truss left the stage abruptly at an event to promote her own book after campaigners unfurled a banner behind her that was emblazoned with the phrase, I crashed the economy, below a picture of a lettuce with googly eyes. And the googly eyes is how you can tell it's Liz Truss. She's the former Prime Minister. Can you believe that?
No.
No, of this country. The former Prime Minister, who lasted 45 days in office, was in Suffolk on Tuesday discussing the US presidential election when the campaign group led by donkeys, who do excellent work. They lowered a remote-controlled banner with a huge picture of a lettuce on it. She said the prank was not funny, which in itself was very funny. her seeing that and saying it wasn't funny was the funniest thing about it. Some members of the audience laughed before she muttered, that's not funny, ripped the microphone from her dress and stalked off in a huff. She was applauded by some as she left, which coincidentally was the exact same reaction from the good people of this country when she left Number 10. Applause, relief, cheering. Not for you, Liz.
That is a disgrace.
In a statement on X, Truss called led by donkeys far-left activists who used the stunt as a means to intimidate people and suppress free speech. No, Liz. They aren't far-left activists, and they were engaging in free speech. The Lizbot left the stage in a huff, thereby restricting her own free speech. Truss was expressing her support for Donald Trump before she was pranked. I support Trump, she said. I support sex abusers and failed businessmen and convicts and fraudsters and cheats and liars. Oh, no, I've got that wrong. She didn't say that. She supports the good side of Donald Trump, which is like the dark side of the moon. Nobody's seen it yet. The lettuce joke arose, says The Guardian, from the final days of Truss's premiership when the Daily Star launched a live stream of a lettuce to see whether Liz Truss's battle to survive in Number 10 could last longer than a 60p iceberg lettuce from Tesco. Tesco. Is that accurate, or was it? I thought it was from the Co-op. Well, it doesn't really matter, do it? And I do believe that is the best thing that the newspaper The Star has ever done. Apart, perhaps, from today reporting on a woman who named her children Stinger, Solitaire Dior, Shadorame and Malibu, Alaska, which all sound like drinks at a hen do.
Booze.
But back with the Lizbot. Truss was trying to promote her memoir, 10 Years to Save the West. which actually could be the funniest thing about this story. How can you be so deluded? On X, Truss said, what happened last night was not funny, underlining her misreading of the situation. I won't stand for it, said Liz. I won't stand for it, she said. Would we see the same reaction if the activists were far right, said Liz Truss. Well, Liz Truss, as we've seen, the far right don't unfurl amusing banners. They set light to the whole building. So there's that, you colossal numpty. And I looked up Liz Truss's book, 10 Years to Save the West, and then cast my eyes down to the reviews. Would you like to hear some reviews of Liz Truss's book, 10 Years to Save the West? Spoiler alert, yes, you would. Right, these are genuine reviews of Liz Truss's book, 10 Years to Save the West, from the Amazon site selling it. This book is breathtakingly delusional. Liz Truss may have to look up the word delusional. It's not a compliment, Liz. Another one. It's like she's living in a whole other universe. It's like she's living in a whole other universe. Yes. Another. Genuinely a waste of time. Another. The torn pages of this make great firelighters. Liz Truss has really given Boris a run for his money as the worst Prime Minister ever. Terrible book. Did you hear that, Bodge? If you're seeking the unhinged ramblings of a disgraced politician who can't accept her own failings, then this is the book for you. If you want to read something more useful or enlightening, then you might want to see if the lettuce has written anything. This one says, really pleased with this purchase and so glad I made the leap of faith and bought it. I'd completely run out of anything to line my cat's litter tray, and this did the job absolutely perfectly. And then there's this one. Super bad, full of curse words and sexual innuendo. Is it? Sexual innuendo? In your endo?
Disgusting.
And here's a review in full, in case you think that I may have been editing those out of context in order to be mean to the Lizbot. This is a genuine review from a person called Hannah on the Amazon website, which is selling Liz Truss's book. And it goes as follows. You ready? Here is a review in full. Truss's book is like toilet roll, rough, thin and utterly disposable. It's the literary equivalent of trying to wipe with sandpaper. It's abrasive, uncomfortable and leaves you wondering why you even bothered in the first place. Save yourself the agony and invest in something more substantial, like actual toilet paper. On a positive note, Truss's book breaks all scientific records on just how far someone can put their head up their own backside. It's a feat so impressive it deserves a standing ovation from contortionists everywhere. If only the content was as flexible as the author's apparent spinal elasticity. It's a hit, Liz. They love it.
Absolutely.
0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nicka@lbc.co.uk. If you're on Twitter, it's at LBC. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. Nick Abbott, LBC.
This is LBC. This is LBC with Nick Abbott. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
I'm not a big fan of his brain.
Thanks a lot, Donnie. You're the best. Tom says, did you see that video of Liz Truss giving a talk while a banner of a lettuce descends saying I crashed the economy? I think I've read that one. James says, Liz Truss destroying our economy wasn't funny either. Steph says, I beg to differ with Liz's comment on the lettuce poster announcing I crashed the economy. It was very funny. Newsflash, Liz. It wasn't exactly a barrel of laughs to the rest of us when you set the economy plummeting. They're not forgetting about it, Liz. Sam says, the funniest thing about the Truss banner was she was dressed in the colour of a lettuce. Yes, she was. Yeah, she was dressed in the sort of bright green that you only see in new growth in spring. I mean, you needed sunglasses to look at her. I would avoid green from now until the end of time if I were you, Liz. I mean, you're just asking for it. Tom says, breaking news, ex-PM dressed as a lettuce storms off... storms off stage after being beaten by a lettuce again. And Dean says, that prank on Truss was the tip of the iceberg. Oh no. A listener with material. Let's see now. Orpington. Hello, Tony.
Oh, hello.
Tony. Yes, Tony.
Nick. Yes, hello. I hope you're well. Yes, well, before I talk about what all called up for, you were right, because there was a lot of callers a week or two ago about the riots, and it seems to have calmed down a bit, doesn't it?
Well, the riots have.
Yes, I think so, haven't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, you said, because a lot of people were worrying. I was worried as well, but you did say no, and I think they're doing the right thing by, I think a lot of people are being punished.
Yes.
So.
Now, I thought what you meant was that the callers had dried up, but you mean the riots have dried up?
No, I think... Yeah, the riots. No, the callers are not. I've tried getting through the last few weeks, and I was saying, no, you have to call back.
Yeah, you were being rebuffed.
Well, yes, you had a lot of new callers, which is a pleasure to see.
Yeah. I mean, being buffed is one thing. Being rebuffed is something else entirely.
Absolutely. Right, now, I want to talk about private school education.
Wow. Talk about shoehorning a topic in where it did not previously exist. Okay, let's see how it goes.
Yeah, no, because I listened to your weather forecast and I rang up really early and I was like, no, I need to, because I was listening to, I think it was Tom Swarbrick before, and you had all these callers now. Now, I'm sticking up for the state school here. Now, I just had to, there was a lot of callers on the
Tony, take a breath, because it seems as though your brain is scrambling itself. And relax. Now.
I'm a bit like that sometimes, so I do apologise.
Okay. Now, what?
Yes. Now, there was a lot of callers in a previous show who send their kids to private school, and they were ringing up saying, oh, they don't know what they're going to do.
Oh, yeah.
And then I was just... me and my dad were listening to it earlier on, and... honestly, I've got my tiny violins out now. If you want to listen to them, no. But no, of course. But and there was one caller saying that there were 6 kids in a class, and he was worried about his child losing some of his friends for his child because they can't afford the VAT. And I'm sorry, you're not going to get any sympathy from me. I think it's a good thing, and I think maybe we should. If you ask me, we should not really have any of these schools, because I'm sticking up for the state school. I went to a state school and it didn't do me any harm.
Well, that's debatable, Tony.
You cheeky. Oh, don't.
I mean, the results aren't in yet.
No, I'm not going to lay that down.
Let's wait around before we jump to any conclusions. But I completely agree. I don't think that the people who cannot send their offspring to private schools should subsidise those who can, which is what's happening when schools are falsely, in my opinion, labelled charities for tax purposes. Of course they aren't blooming charities.
Of course not. Of course they're not. How do they get these? I want to know how are they assessed to be a charity?
Well, I'll answer that for you. It's because the people that send their children there are the ones that write the rules.
All right. So okay. So that's corrupt.
Yeah. Welcome to Britain. It's we're a corrupt country from top to bottom. We're one of the most corrupt countries on earth. It's just that our politeness rather fools people into thinking that is not the case.
Yes. Well, I've always thought that. A lot of it is nepotism as well. I've got to tell you a story, actually. When I was a bit younger...
hang on. Wait, hang on a minute.
No, please. It relates to what I've been saying. Please.
If you had to write it down, how many lines would it be?
It's a couple
of sentences. Carry on.
So I lived with my friend who went to boarding school, and he didn't know... we're not friends anymore. He didn't know Latvia was a country.
Latvia?
Yeah, he did not know
I thought it was Donald Trump's wife.
Okay, Nick. That's what I've got for you tonight.
Okay, excellent work. Thanks a lot, Tony. That was a story. But at least it was just a couple of sentences, so that part was true. Mike says, did you see the interview between Musk and Trump? No, I can only take so much crazy at once. He says, I'm at a loss to understand why it didn't have a trigger warning, as the risk of being spontaneously sick, if viewed, was very high. Well, those two together, I mean, it's just absolutely, it is just vomit-inducing. It is. I mean, the one of them, they're both sucking up to each other like their lives depended on it. You know, Trump used to make fun of Elon Musk. He used to say that he wouldn't be anything without government subsidies, and I can't remember the exact quote off the top of my head, but it was something of the order of, if I told Elon Musk to drop to his knees and crawl across the carpet and beg, he would, said Donald Trump. And Donald Trump also said that people who buy electric vehicles should rot in hell. And now, because Elon Musk has given him some money... they're best friends forever, and Donald Trump is all about the electric cars and crypto finance as well. So shall I go ahead and assume that Donald Trump knows zero about crypto finance? Donald Trump knows as much about crypto finance as he knows about wind.
I know a lot about wind.
Nothing about wind.
I know a lot about wind.
It gives you cancer, they kill birds, and it's a disgrace. Wind. No, I did not see that interview between Elon Musk and Donald Trump. It's a little bit too weird. It's bending the needle on my weirdometer just thinking about it. Martin says, I got a bit of sunburn climbing a Munro in the Cairngorms on Wednesday. How cool is that? What's a Munro? Is that a typo? A mountain, maybe? What's a Munro? Am I missing something?
Type of mountain. It's a mountain with a height of over 3,000 feet.
A Munro?
Yes.
That's a real word?
Yes, but these mountains only exist in Scotland.
Okay. Why?
Don't know. I assume it's just a Scottish term for the word.
Oh no! Now we're just making stuff up. Assume we only deal in facts on this program. Rebecca says we had monsoon-style rain yesterday in Glasgow. It was my 50th birthday. And she says, all the lovely curls that I put in my hair were washed away.
Stop whining.
The sun did come out later, so I guess we've been blessed with half a day of summer this year. I can't believe it's about over. That's just too awful, isn't it? And Archie says, I know you're not one of Banksy's biggest fans, stencils and all that, but the police phone box is something. I'll have to look that up. I maintain that Banksy has to be in a market, the modern art market. It seems to be just pure luck. It's like people who are big movers and shakers in the art market. People who've got big galleries and famous names. They just go around and say you, not you, for no apparent reason whatsoever. And they'll buy up the entire show. They'll double the price. They'll sell it in their own gallery. And as long as they can continue doing that with that artist, then they'll continue buying all their stuff. And the moment that it doesn't sell, they'll just drop them like a used Kleenex.
Disgusting.
I believe that. And some get to stick around for no apparent reason whatsoever. Explain Damien Hirst to me, I double dare you. I mean, a couple of interesting ideas, but nothing that he actually created with his own hands. In fact, I saw an exhibition of Damien Hirst's paintings, and I came away giggling. It was at the Wallace collection, and he'd reupholstered the galleries. Beautiful. The actual gallery themselves. He put padded silk on the walls to hang his risible paintings of you've guessed it, skulls. Skulls. I mean, can you think of nothing else? But he put this, and the best thing about it was the walls themselves. I mean, just stunning. It must have cost a fortune to, padded silk on all the walls. Beautiful. The actual paintings themselves, no thanks. But, he's made bazillions of pounds, as has Banksy, who, to my eyes, is just a cartoonist. You glance at it, you get the joke. You don't get anything more from it the longer you look at it. How is that art? Any more than the guy on the front page of the Daily Telegraph, who has the benefit of actually being funny. But anyway, don't get me started on that. No, I can't really take that call there now because it's a bit too up against the news. So he'd be on and gone, and that wouldn't be fair. So the police kiosk box thing, Banksy. I'll have to look at that up. Powell texts, Nick, the mounting of that lettuce banner must have taken a lot of planning. It appeared to be motorised. Kudos to whoever is responsible. Yeah, if Banksy had a hand in that, then I would have been impressed. It was the same people that did that, the exact same stunt on Nigel Farage.
I'm a nutcase.
With Vladimir Putin's picture and the legend I Love Nigel underneath of it. Or I Heart Nigel, more accurate. Apparently that wasn't funny either. Yeah, right. John says Donald Trump is 78, likes to play golf. So if he's elected president in November, we know that he's going to spend much of his presidential time doing for the next 4 years. Therefore, the question we should be asking about I'm editing this as I go along. Never mind. Therefore, the question we should be asking about his vice presidential running mate, J.D. Vance, is not whether Vance would make a good vice president, but whether Vance would make a good caddy. Well, if he's working as Donald Trump's vice president, then he'll be lucky to make it out of that job alive. I mean, there was I don't know whether he receives the news on Planet Vance, but there was a small incident with Donald Trump's previous vice president. You might want to look that up, JD. Richard says, what also made me laugh is Teresa Coffey's application for the role of Labour government treasury, for a role in the Labour government treasury. 180 grand a year. I know. Absolutely now, is it shameless or is it deluded? Or is it a toxic cocktail of the both? I can't believe these people are still talking. These people have the nerve to appear in public. I think a period of silence for, let's say, 5 years, and then we'll review the situation for everybody that has had anything to do with the regime of the previous regime of the last 14 years. A period of like the public's well-deserved silence. We appreciate it. 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nicka@lbc.co.uk. If you're on Twitter, it's @LBC. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. Nick Abbott, LBC. It's 10:30, the news headlines with Tim Daly.
Nick Abbott on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Hot H-O-T-A-I-R.
0345 6060 973. Heston, Isaac.
Hello, Nick.
Isaac.
Isaac here.
Yes, Isaac.
Okay, right. Two things.
Couple of things.
Liz Truss and Rishi Sunak.
Yeah.
Right, let's get out of business. Liz Truss first, yeah?
Yeah, they both need. They really do both need to grip it.
I'm gripping it.
He's gripping it.
All right, with Liz Truss, I was listening to your comments and some of the other callers, and your Amazon reviews made me laugh. I'm a big Amazon user, so I'm going to go and have a look.
How big are you?
Right, the last week I ordered 6 items during the last weeks to deliver to my door.
Does Jeff Bezos really need any more of your money?
Good question now. I need to rethink. You know what? I should rethink that, because I'll tell you why. Because today I had 2 old accounts on Twitter and I deleted them both, you see.
How did you do that? How do you delete your Twitter account? I wouldn't even know how to go about that.
It was a bit fiddly, you know, and I had to persist. Yeah. But I went on. I did a YouTube video called "How to Delete Your Twitter."
Right.
And I managed to do it.
I bet there's not a YouTube video on how to delete your YouTube.
There is.
Is there? Like I said, I bet there is. Yeah.
Of course there is, yeah, absolutely, yeah. But but YouTube, I'm fine with, you know.
Right.
Anyway, with Liz Truss, okay, I'm quite happy for her to continue as she is, because she is the gift that keeps giving.
She is now an international laughingstock. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, as far as I'm concerned, she should continue. She's a fantastic study. You know, a fantastic study in somebody who's delusional and narcissistic. And I'm thinking, well, you know.
Well, psychologists would be absolutely fighting each other in order to be the person that studies her first.
Absolutely,
they'll be wrestling each other to the ground while shouting about their mothers.
That's right. And as I'm trying to be, and I do use the word trying, as I'm trying to be a psychology student, you know, she's a first-class real-life study. So
wait a minute, back up. You're trying to be a psychology student. Why don't you just be a psychology student?
I don't know. I'm a bit inconsistent. I haven't got much staying power, you know. I try and do other things, you know. Anyway,
well, believe me,
2.
You don't need to know anything to get a psychology degree. You don't need to learn anything. You don't need to remember anything. I think they give you a 2-2 just for showing up.
Okay, right. Number 2, Rishi Sunak. Now, I heard today that he was back on the maths thing. You know, he wants the country to change its attitude towards maths. You know, etc.
Maths.
And maths, yes. And
I'm never going to change my attitude to maths. It couldn't be more dull. It's just a bunch of numbers. Who cares?
And my attitude is this: is fine. Yeah, okay. Okay, Rishi, I agree. But 2 things. Number 1, get some decent teachers involved, right, who can teach the subject properly and explain everything well.
To get that, you need to pay them. Yes.
Absolutely, because you know, I remember as a 12-year-old, right, in 1972, you know, at my Luton Comprehensive, right, I did. I took maths with a teacher called Mr. Muller, you know, as in the German name, Muller, and he was explaining maths. He was explaining maths to me. No, algebra. He was explaining algebra to me.
A plus B equals C. Mm-hmm.
Exactly, and my brain was going. Exactly, you know. Right. So get some decent teachers in, and finally, on the subject of maths.
Finally, and in closing, yes, briefly. Mm-hmm.
And in closing, right? If you are going to teach maths, teach it at a young age in conjunction with financial literacy. You know, in other words, you know, how money's made, how to invest money, how to get loans, how to not get in debt.
Right.
You know,
stuff,
how people use debt to make money.
Real life skills. Yes, I couldn't agree more. Excellent work there, Isaac. 0345 6060 973. Gaz says supermarkets are stocking Halloween costumes. Yeah, I know. He says, and I've just seen a spider the size of a tangerine running across the kitchen floor. Yeah. Well, Now, what do you do about those? I think your initial reaction is, must kill it immediately. And which is not necessarily the right reaction because, you know, we are short of insects in this country. Now, spiders aren't my favourite insects, but at least they provide food for birds, which eat them a lot. They love them. So I would use the thing that somebody sent me from Canada, which is like a grabby thing. It's about 2 foot long, and it's got these bristles, these sort of long nylon bristles at the end, which are splayed out. And you pull the trigger at your end of it, and they close. And they'll close around the spider, thereby trapping it but not hurting it. Well, I don't know whether it hurts it or not. I can't hear the spider screaming, but I'm going to assume that it doesn't actually hurt it that much, because they're very quite pliable. And then you can wander outside and, chuck it in a bush or something. I think people will probably appreciate that rather than getting out your slipper and smashing it into the floor, particularly something that's the size of a tangerine, because that would be, quite icky, gooey. Ugh. Spider goo, my least favourite type of goo. Tess says, I wouldn't even insult my cat's bottom with the lettuces book. Chris said, I'm not entirely satisfied with this summer. I want my money back. And on that subject, Caroline says, regarding the weather, it's been like swimming in treacle lately. Bring on the cold. No, Caroline. No. Don't even think that. We must cling on to the warmth for as long as we can. Bath. John.
Hello, long time no speak.
Haven't I been lucky?
I tell you what, I know you have. But what I would say is the spider, a little bit of butter in a pan with some saffron.
Oh. Well, that might be the future of the human race. Insects, it's a great unused resource.
Well, lots of protein.
Yeah, no doubt.
Apparently. No, I was going to say, because, I probably spoke to you in the past about it, but when I was at art school in St Martin's and a few other places, I was a musician at the same time, right? So I've recorded a lot of stuff, but also done a lot of artwork in galleries and stuff. Mm-hmm. And I was going to say, you were talking about Banksy and Damien Hirst, and the thing is, I understand where you're coming from, but I mean, you're probably aware that Michelangelo or Leonardo da Vinci didn't paint all their pictures. They what they did is they ran a studio. Where and it's like they managed people.
Well, they did the face and probably the hands, and their students coloured in the background. Yeah,
yeah, and that's the thing. And then Damien Hirst is more or less doing the same thing, and so is I mean, Banksy, okay, well, he's got a spray can.
Yeah, okay, but what Damien Hirst does and calls art and sells for £1 million is just a thought off the top of his head. Why don't we take that disabled thing that used to... that what would you call it? Like this image of a disabled person, 3D, it's not a statue exactly, but it's made out of plastic.
Stephen Hawking?
No, it used to stand outside newsagents, and you put money in it.
Oh God, yeah, I know it. Yeah,
so why don't we take those and blow it up 10 times and make it out of steel, and that's the art. And
I know.
He'll spend half a minute on the phone with his manufacturing department, and then put his feet up and smoke a cigar for the rest of the day.
But Nick, it's a lot of conceptual stuff where he'll come up with an idea like that. I understand where you're coming from, but.
Where's the art, though? Where's the skill? That's my question.
I know he can draw, and I know that Banksy can draw.
Yeah, but I can draw. I can draw, John, and I'm rubbish too. I've seen Damien Hirst. I've seen Damien Hirst's pictures. They were laughingly awful.
Have you seen Tracy Eminent's pictures?
Yes. Here's another 20 scribbles of my personal area.
Disgusting.
Yeah, I've seen all of those.
Do you know she's head of painting, of drawing in the Royal College of Art? And I've got many designer friends who are absolutely shocked.
She's also a Royal Academician. Explain that to me, Doubleday.
I know, I don't get it either.
No.
But no, I mean, but what I was trying to illustrate is because... a lot of painters and a lot of, whether it's John Everett Millais or whether it's, the Pre-Raphaelites, they painted, but they also had people working.
Yes, they have studios, yeah. You couldn't make a massive picture of the size that you'll see in the National Gallery if it's just one artist, because it would take them 10, 20 years. So no, they have
Michelangelo,
a whole series of paintings. All major artists do the same. If it's a big work, then they'll do the important bits, the faces and the hands, maybe.
That's it, right.
And everybody else does the background. Yeah, I get that.
And in the same way, like when I was recording music and stuff, I'd walk in and I'd play some guitar on a Ginger Baker item or a Bob Dylan thing, but I was just told what to do.
You played on a Bob Dylan track?
Yeah, I've been playing since I was a little kid, so yeah.
No, wait a minute, back up. Let me see if I've got this right. You played on a track that is available for purchase by Bob Dylan?
Yeah, and
which one?
Ginger Baker. Oh, come on, I'm not going to say.
Why not?
No, because it's one of those things. You just do it. You just work and you do it. Ginger Baker was the worst person I ever worked with.
I heard. Yeah, that's not the first time I've ever heard that. But going back to Bob Dylan, it wasn't anything off from Blood on the Tracks, was it?
Yeah.
No, it was not.
I'm quite old, by the way. So yeah.
Well, what instrument do you play?
Guitar.
You played guitar on Blood on the Tracks?
Yeah.
Are you named on that album?
No, because I was brought in as a session musician.
Which track?
Oh, there was a few of them. I'm not going to go into it, but it's just like it doesn't matter.
I don't know.
You know. I'm telling you the truth, but it's just the Ginger Baker stuff was the worst because he tried to pay me.
Well, yeah, it was Ginger Baker. I think you lost me at Ginger Baker. I've never liked anything that man has ever done. I mean, anybody that goes for a 10-minute drum solo and thinks that that's what the audience wants to hear has issues. Yeah. John, got to go. Thanks for that. 0345 6060 973 LBC.
This is LBC. Leading Britain's conversation. Nick Abbott. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
This is absolute tosh.
It's what I thought when I saw that exhibition. 0345 6060 973. Iris says, Hannah, the reviewer, whose review I read last, that bit about Liz Truss. Hannah, the reviewer, should write a book of her own. Her review of Liz Truss's book was excellently written. I couldn't agree more, Iris. Joanne says, I must take issue with your criticism of Liz Truss's book. I found it to be a little gem. Oh, no. I will remain forthright in this view, even withstanding the negative reviews being the tip of the iceberg. And Caroline says, Banksy's work is beautiful, most of it. No, it's not. It's not beautiful. They're cartoons stenciled onto a wall. What's beautiful about that? 0345 6060 973. Cowbridge. Hello, Chris.
Hello, Nick. How you doing?
Good, thanks.
Long time no speak. It's good to hear your voice. It's good to hear your voice not croaky as well.
Well, it seems a little bit croaky. I thought I got over it, but then I start to, project, and I think maybe I haven't.
Do you think it's anything to do with the air co in your studio that causes your voice to go?
Yeah, possibly, yes. And I keep forgetting to open the window during the ad breaks, because if I open the window now, I'll do it now. You can hear that, right?
A little bit.
Yeah.
But if you think about it, that's almost a metaphor for like the Labour government coming in. That little background noise of reality.
Oh.
Sorry, a bit of politics. Sorry. Yeah.
No, that's perfectly all right. Yes, it is a surprise every day when somebody is introduced as a government minister and they're not, and you think, oh, this person isn't lying through their teeth at me. They're not telling me that up is down.
Yeah, or they're not trying to make salacious statements to grab headlines like Suella Doberman, which I find actually, I mean, it's not the reason I called, but just to touch on this, I thought her nonsense about those, what she termed hate marches, which were just peaceful demonstrations. And then when there were actually hate marches, it's remarkably, there was just literally nothing from her.
She revealed herself to just be a paper-thin, silly woman.
Yeah, that's not the words I'd use, but yeah, I think that's very good. But no, actually, when I was thinking, while I was waiting to come on, that you had talking about the summer, and I was thinking, what summer? Is it got so bad in this country that Tory austerity has had cuts in the weather now as well, so it goes straight from spring straight through to bloody autumn. Sorry,
yeah, it's almost autumn. I can't stand it. It doesn't feel as though summer has begun yet.
Oh God, Joe, the reason I was calling is about the Lisbot and that the prank on her in that presentation, which I have to say that is comedy gold. It just does.
Well, her reaction to it really underlined how funny it was. Her saying that's not funny and then storming off in a huff was the funniest part about it.
Well, the fact that I don't know if anybody noticed, but she was wearing the same colour dress as that tasteless vegetable. And, of course, one could actually question which one was the tasteless vegetable.
Right. Yeah, I would fire my stylist. Well, I'll take that back. There's absolutely no way that Liz Truss has a stylist working for her. But I would get somebody to go along with you next time you pick something out, Liz Truss, and just swerve the green rack.
Oh God! I mean, it's the gift that just goes on giving, isn't it? Do you think she's realised that, like, it's nearly 2 years, or it's a year and a half, and it's still following around, and it still gets a laugh. Do you think she's woken up to the fact that this isn't going away anytime soon?
I get the feeling from her that she really doesn't... it doesn't register with her that she's done anything wrong. I think her self-belief is towering, which is really remarkable for someone who's been such a catastrophic failure. I can't think of, off the top of my head, anything that she's actually been a success at. And now putting it all in with Donald Trump, the felon. I mean, good grief. Try making one good decision in your life, Liz Truss.
Well, do you know what? I was going to say she's a successful failure.
Well, maybe that's the reason that she is so attracted to Donald Trump, because, she sees her desperate flailing reflected in his.
Oh, I don't know. I don't have anything on that. But I did think those book reviews was hysterical.
Yeah.
That is really almost as funny as the prank on her.
Yeah. Well, I didn't make any of those up. You can look them up yourself. It's on the World Wide Ways.
Oh, that's wonderful. The other thing I was going to mention, obviously, a few weeks ago, you had those long conversations about the private schools, which I think went on a little longer than you'd wanted it to go on, about the VATs and that. And I was listening to Tom Swarbrick earlier on today, and he had a caller on, and she was talking about she'd moved from, I think it was Surrey or something, and she had 4 jobs, and she was working really hard to keep her child in school, and that because the VAT was just not fair. And there was just no warning coming up on it. And I was thinking, Tom did say, I don't know if he caught it or not, but he did say there's about 90% of the public, if not more, that had the world's smallest violin out, which I thought was quite a funny remark. But then he did pick up on her saying, well, if you're saying you're working really hard, does that mean that people who earn less money work less hard? And I don't think she really sort of got into it. But I think I'm sorry, I don't want to kick this off again, but what I hear on these calls that are coming in each time is that these people talk as if they have absolute entitlement.
Yes.
And it's an absolute requirement. And I keep hearing your words, which are absolutely spot on, is they just don't seem to accept they're buying a luxury product, and it's a brand. And I'm sorry, I don't want to kick it all up again.
It's like whining about it's like whining about how expensive a Bentley is, and so they want the tax taken off it so they can afford it more easily.
Yeah. And I listened to your words. I had your words coming back in my mind. Not that I'm trying to, say hold you up as a poster child or anything like that, but it just hearing this woman, bemoan the fact that she's, life is getting tough, and I'm sure life is tough, but it's like, well, you've chosen.
Yes, exactly
to send
right.
Your child.
You chose to buy something that's very, very expensive for understandable reasons. Parents mostly want to do well by their children, to set them up in life and get ahead.
Yeah.
But why should the rest of us pay for that while we're also paying for our own children? Why should we subsidise yours?
Well, that's right. But what I think really, the reason why I'm calling is what I suppose really wound me up is, I mean, I'm a state-educated failure, like many others. But, sorry, I didn't mean to say that sound too, well, I did actually. But, was it 95% of the public or the children going into education are state-educated?
Yeah, about that.
And that these people who managed to be able to, I don't know, scrimp and save to get the money for it, okay, well done to them.
Yeah, mostly they're not scrimping and
minority.
saving. Yeah, mostly they're not scrimping and saving. Mostly they can do it quite easily without living a life of penury. They don't have to give up their second car, and they don't have to give up their holidays. I mean, they might not take such lavish holidays, and they might not change their car as often as they used to. But we're not talking about people who are going to bed hungry just so their child can go to Eton.
Well, I know that. I mean, I don't want to. Well, I suppose I had. It was just the tone that there's this kind of level of entitlement to privilege, just because you happen to be quite fortunate in jobs that pay you a lot of money. Well done for you. But You don't have to sound like it's some sort of entitled right.
But people like that always sound like they're entitled to it. It's the same as the Tory, the various Tory ministers and famous faces from the last regime and the one before that. The last 14 years of our life have been steeped in their sort of, I don't know, their sort of supercilious oleaginous. People like this.
I don't know anything.
Every single thing he says, every intonation of his voice tells you that he thinks he was born to lead. And they just can't get it into they just can't get their heads around the fact that they have been ejected by the public. It's as though they feel as though they've been subject to some great unfairness. As though we stupid morons don't quite understand that it's their position to be our leaders. And I bet they collectively can't wait until we rue our choice and go back to being good little boys and girls and letting them do all of our thinking for us. I mean, people like this.
Yeah. Wait.
They're all the blooming same, aren't they? It's painful. But, like I said, it's a revelation every day when some government minister or other actually talks to us like they're a grown-up, like we're grown-ups. So far, it does not cease to surprise. Here, Chris, got to go. Thanks for that. 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nica@lbc.co.uk. And if you're on Twitter, it's @LBC. Dan says, where's Rishi gone? He's too quiet for my liking. Where have you gone, Rishi?
No, I don't recall, and I don't recall. Yeah, I can't specifically recall. Can't precisely recall. No, I don't remember them, but I don't precisely. I can't remember it precisely. Yeah, I can't precisely recall that. I don't recall the precise timing and the date. I don't remember specifically. I don't precisely remember that. I don't recall. I don't recall I can't comment on the particular. Yes, I don't recall seeing. I said I don't recall.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
Leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC. This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Nick Abbot.
You're joking.
What are you talking about?
This and that. James says these paintings by Banksy, whoever he is, must take a little time to complete. And I wonder, surely cannot go, I observed, what? And I wonder, surely can't go, I observed while they are, okay, right, okay. So it's a typo. So I'll try it again. James texts, these paintings by Banksy, whoever he is, must take a little time to complete. And I wonder, surely can't go unobserved while they are being painted in public areas. Perhaps the real joke is that Banksy is a composite of many persons and not a lone individual. Well, that is entirely possible. He might get his mini-me's to go out and spray it on a wall, having cut out the template at home. I've got no idea. They're just jokes. I just don't get the art part. They're just jokes. This says, I'm a maths teacher, and quite frankly, a lot of students don't have the mental capability for maths that would last until 18 years old. Their brains would probably implode. Well, some people have got very, very far with a dismal appreciation for maths. Listen to this bloke.
And 1,
2,
2,
3,
6 million.
No, not right. Is a bad Zahawi. Oh, I forgot what his first name was. It's not Zaphod, is it? It's something else. I can't remember. Isn't it great not to be able to remember some of their names? It means they have not inflicted themselves upon us in a good long while. Oh, it feels like we're free, doesn't it? This says, Tessa says, I'm sorry to be a pedant, but I'm currently filling in the results of a pollinator survey I carried out today, and I must point out that a spider is not an insect. And when I read that during the news, I thought, aren't they? And so I looked it up. No, spiders are not insects, it says here, but they are arthropods, like insects. Spiders are arachnids. What? Now, which are they? Arthropods or arachnids? Or is one a subset of the other? Spiders are arachnids, which are more closely related to mites, ticks, and scorpions than insects. Well, okay. Is a mite not an insect? A tick, aren't they? Well, what are they then? See, the bad thing about Googling are spiders insects is that the very first thing that comes up are some absolutely horrifying looking spiders. And there's absolutely nothing you can do about that. They just burst onto my phone, and the further down I scroll, the worse it gets. So I'm going to put that away over there, and I might have to burn that phone later. 0345 6060 973. Bristol. Hello, Sarah.
Oh, hello.
Sarah.
Oh, I'm on.
It sounds like you.
Hi, I love listening to you.
Thanks.
And you're one of my two favourites.
Thanks, Sarah.
And thank you for making me laugh at the same time as looking at things that are serious.
Yeah.
Now, can I say 4 things about public schools? I think
4?
I might be. I'll be quick.
Okay, then.
Do you want me to be quick?
Go on, then.
Yeah. In the 70s, a long time ago when I was at university, it was full of public school boys. And they were really uncomfortable around women. And you always got to the point where they were really fed up because their mums dumped them when they were 10. Some of them were 8. And boys need their mums till they're about 16. They really do. In fact, all boys need their mums. And when fighter pilots used to go down, they used to shout for their mum, apparently. So a mum is a healthy part of life, which they haven't had. And you always got to the point they didn't relate. That's number one.
Now, you're talking about... You're talking about boarding school, aren't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I am.
Right.
And we've just
that always seemed a bit
by them for 13 years.
That seemed a bit. Yes, exactly. Yeah, all those weirdos. It seems a bit odd to me for a parent to decide that the best thing that they want to do with their children is to send them away.
Yes, and if a poor person did that, wouldn't they have trouble with social services?
Yes, they would. Yeah, they'd probably be in jail.
Yeah. The other thing was I was addicted to the idea of private education. Having my children were small on Merseyside in the 80s when it just turned into a jungle for a while. And when I moved to a country place, I still had, it becomes an obsession that you feel you're only doing your best for your child if you're paying for the best.
Right.
And so I put them in the lovely little uniforms. And then my third child had scarlet fever, and I felt my heart rate go up on Sunday night when he was on his little bed in my bedroom, and I thought, my God, I've got to get back into work tomorrow. What am I going to do? And I thought, they're coming out of school. I took them out of school, and we were both self-employed, fortunately. I was able to take them summer holidays, all the school holidays with them and be with them. And we had gorgeous holidays thereafter.
Well, hang on a minute. You took them out of school?
I took out of private school and put them in local village school.
Oh, right. Gotcha.
Yeah. And it just improved our quality of life. I heard a man on an LBC saying, we gave up the car and we never had any holidays. Yeah. I thought, why put that on a child?
Well, presumably he was sharing that on the radio, not with their child on a regular basis. That would be weird.
I did wonder. It just seemed part of the vocabulary. So... finally, one of your callers... sorry, am I being too businesslike?
No, go on.
Finally, as I came into the kitchen earlier, somebody was talking about how they got charitable status. I, years ago, put on a production of Pirates of Penzance. Pirates of Penzance is a parody of what was happening to public schools in the mid-19th century. And the pirates were the children and parents of schools, of people who took over what were public schools. It's why they're called public schools. And they were set up in the beautiful buildings and wonderful facilities in like 1400 or 1500 for poor boys.
Right, that's what Eton used to be.
Yeah, and that's why they had charitable status, and they obviously managed to pirate that along with the buildings.
Yeah. Well, I think the bottom line to me is that there is no doubt that if you send your children to private school, my experience is that they will get a better education because the class size is smaller, there is more intensity on... You're breathing right down the phone there, Sarah.
Oh, not consciously. I'll move away from my nose. Oh, dear, I'm so sorry.
It felt for a while there like we were inside your sinuses.
Oh, don't be afraid. I'll move the phone.
They will get a better education because the class sizes are smaller. There is more impetus to achieve, and it doesn't... For the kids, there's not the same sense that it's not cool to try, which is what I got from the comprehensive that I went to in Essex. And the only difference between the comprehensive in Essex and the family moved up to Scotland, and for the last 3 years of my schooling, I was put into a private school. And the difference between the two was almost non-existent, apart from the smaller class sizes and the feeling that you could try and show that you were trying in the private school, whereas you really didn't want to look as though you were trying in the comprehensive.
Didn't you pretend in the comprehensive that you weren't trying?
Yes. That was the trick, that if you could look as though you weren't trying, but actually, make headway, then that was the trick. But there was there wasn't a feeling that you had to play that trick in the private school.
Yeah. Oh, fair play. Yeah. Yeah. But I still, in my mind, having stepped right away from it, I can't really justify it. I think, we don't get to choose which kind of water we want when it comes out the tap. I think education should be as the air we breathe in a civilised society.
Well, the difference that it would make if we didn't have private schools at all, and if, even if, taking the VAT off, and that a lot of parents who would have sent their children to private schools are going to have to just put up with the same schooling that everybody else gets, then the quality of that schooling, a state education, would improve because those pushy upper middle class parents would insist on it, and they would be, if not the MPs responsible, then close personal friends of the MPs responsible. So it would improve the quality of education for everybody, I think.
I agree.
All right, well, let's end on that note of concord. Excellent work there, Sarah. Thanks a lot. Cheers, my dear. 0345 6060 973. Bob says, thanks for not being mean to spiders. They catch and eat gnats. And I hate gnats. says Bob. That's something of an outburst, Bob. What have you got against gnats? They're also pollinators, says Bob. What, spiders? Are they? God, there's stuff you learn on this show. Educational, no?
No.
Caroline says, haven't seen many butterflies this year. Where are they all gone? My garden. I've seen loads of them. All sorts of different ones. I've seen the red ones. I presume that they're red admirals. Loads of white ones. And some that when they land, you think, wow, how did nature come up with that design? No, I've seen boatloads of them. Literally, they arriving by boats. Jack says, if you want to keep spiders away, cut a lemon or lime and they won't come near them. What? Well, how's that going to help? Yeah, they won't go near the lemon or the lime, but then they got the rest of your house to play with. That doesn't help at all. 0345 6060 973. Let's see now. Tooting. Hello, Jan.
Oh, yeah. Hi, good evening, Nick.
Yes, Jan.
Yeah, so I'm taking up something you said about Banksy, and Damien Hirst, yeah?
Yeah.
Because it's like you're just saying it's not art, but in a way, look, when I went through my art education, it was like a war. It was like being, it was the different types of artists there, and they were well-known artists. You're taught by well-known artists, they're at war with each other. Like those who are conceptual, they call them conceptual art.
Yeah,
like Hearst and that.
People who don't actually do anything, they just dream something up and then get on the phone and ask their manufacturer to knock this together. I've got an idea. Put a shark in a tank of formaldehyde and call me when you're done.
But the most radical thing was done at the beginning of the 20th century when Duchamp exhibited. It was like questioning everything about art that was taken for granted.
Yeah.
So he exhibited the urinal. He exhibited the urinal in a gallery, and he was saying that the artist is like a shaman. A shaman, a medicine man or something. If he says it's art, it's art. The artist has got that power.
Right.
Sort
Well,
of thing.
the urinal was supposed to represent something, as far as I'm aware.
Well,
something unmentionable.
A ready-made. No, he called it a ready-made, and in a way that was the most radical movement, and it's now gone right through into this century. So some of them are just playing around with the idea, but some are very serious. They're questioning what is art, what's behind art.
Okay. Well, my answer to that, my answer to that is, excuse me, it's all been done. Exactly right. What you've just said has all been done, and people like Hearst. I mean, I've been to several Damien Hirst exhibitions, and some of it is properly beautiful, and it's very well made, because, as you would expect for something that costs north of £1 million. You know, his vitrines are extremely well put together. They nail them shut good. But it's just been done, you know. I mean, can you do anything else? Can you paint, for instance? Can you actually make a sculpture with your own hands, you know, like an artist might?
But that's the whole thing about it now. I mean, as I say, there's literally warfare going on in the arts with the painterly artists who keep, you know, the painterly artists and the conceptual ones, because you don't even need an art object.
No, you can just think it. Yeah.
Well, it doesn't have to have physical form.
I know. You can actually take a walk, and that's art. I'm not making that up.
No, because I myself once did I thought I was being very smart. I thought I'd do a Duchampian thing, a Dadaist, thing, very avant-garde thing, because I came under the influence of a conceptual artist. Whereas the painterly ones there, they kind of, they were so outraged, they gave me kind of minus marks. I put in an exhibition in the place a teapot and called it a kettle and put it upside down, and it was.
Right.
But it was.
And if you did it, then you get negative marks. And if somebody who has got a gallery behind them did it, then they get £1 million for it. No, it's just utterly silly. And in closing, I'd have to say that I have now become, or I'm in danger of becoming, one of those people who walks into an art gallery and tuts and say, poor child could do that. But I'm not. It's just that I don't really understand, and this had, I don't know, I can't quite remember, it's probably my fault. I can't remember how Damien Hirst got mixed up in this, because we were talking about Banksy. And I'm not one of those people. One of my favourite things is to go around modern art galleries. And, you know, this kind of thing crops up every now and again. Like, people of a certain age will remember Carl Andre's bricks that the Tate bought for the amazingly huge sum at the time of, I think it was £100,000. And the Sun and the various newspapers just went off on one. They couldn't believe it. And they just, like, day after day after day about Carl Andre's blooming bricks. Deliberately missing the larger picture, which was, you know what, I'm not even going to explain it, because it's pointless. But I don't think that... There's nothing behind the Banksy. That's what I'm confused about. It's just a cartoon. You glance at it, you get it. Some of it's amusing, and that's it. You've experienced the entire work in 1 second. You don't have to think any more about it. There's nothing that is going to delight the eye by staring at it longer. There's just nothing to it. I think he just got lucky. He was in the right place at the right time, and the art world, which is just such a silly place. They just said you. The stars have aligned for you. It's going to be you rather than, some other person that was doing graffiti. I mean, there's some other bloke who does. I go past one of his works every day, and I always think, gosh, that's so much better than a Banksy. Because it's got, it was drawn by hand for a start. I can't remember what his name is. He does people with triangular teeth. It'll come to me. But he doesn't sell for £1 million, and Banksy does. Just because the art world said you. Of all of the people that are in front of us, we'll pick you, just randomly. It's you. Bingo. But people going on and on about Banksy this and Banksy that, I just don't get it. Here's how silly the art world is. It's basically for people who've come from who work in the City of London, and they've just done a deal that screwed over a lot of people, and they made £100 million. So what are they going to spend their money on? Well, they got an Aston Martin, they got a place in Mystique, and this, that, and the other. So they want to go down Bond Street and buy some art. Well, fortunately, there's a place just for them. It's called the Halcyon Gallery, where people with way too much money can walk in and buy, and I'm not making this up, literally a picture of money. That's the level of it. But on that subject, I think I've reached my limit of interest, as I'm sure most of this audience has. Art?
Boring. LBC. Leading Britain's conversation. Nick Abbot. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
I am not one of your fans!
Vince says, I was having a beer in a Reading pub on Thursday and had... They had the Christmas menu on all of the tables.
What?
Oh, what? That is the earliest sighting of Christmas. I mean, I was surprised to go into a supermarket the other day and they had all the Halloween stuff out. It's summer. Who's going to buy that stuff now? What is the point of putting it on the shelves? Josie says, 2 nights ago I fell asleep with the side light on. I awoke to turn over onto my right side to be confronted by a spider on my pillow looking at me. Its legs were like the top of a pineapple. I shot out of bed to grab a glass in which to catch it. I then stubbed my little toe on the edge of the door, hopped about a bit, and then lost track of the creepy crawly. No. I stayed awake for yonks, waiting for it to pop out again, but eventually fell asleep. I haven't seen it since. This message from one tired lady, says Josie. Well, I wouldn't worry about it, Josie. In the middle of the night, it'd probably crawl into your ear and lay 1,000 eggs. Don't worry about it. Let's see now. Who's been waiting the longest? I'll be totally fair about this. Belfast. Hello, Brendan.
Hello.
Brendan.
Sir Nick. Long time since I've got through. I actually thought I was blacklisted. I did. The last time I spoke to you was when the Dark Forces were still in power.
Right.
I've rang it almost every week since then.
And the Dark Forces. Yeah. Seems like a nightmare we've just woken up from.
Yeah. Anyway, and it was lovely to hear John, because the last time I spoke to you, it was John was on before me, so it's serendipity.
It's the planets aligning.
That's it. I wanted to talk to you about Banksy.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't possibly say I know anything of any value about art, okay? But I know what I like, that's the old cliche.
Yeah.
But Banksy is an amazing artist.
Oh, come on.
No, he is. If you dismiss Banksy, you're going to have to dismiss Andy Warhol painting a tin of Campbell's soup.
No, that's not true.
Well, it is true. He painted a tin of Campbell's soup.
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah. Well, what was that about?
Well, it was about showing us the beauty of everything that surrounds us, and that design, even on the most common objects, can be viewed as art.
Exactly, and that's what Banksy's doing. If art is anything, it has to provoke. It has to provoke a reaction. Otherwise, it's not. That's my definition of art.
Okay,
that it must provoke a reaction.
But then so does somebody else's dog pooping on your front garden.
Well, I don't know which artist did that, but I have to claim ignorance on that one. But what I'm saying
I remember that one artist actually put that product in a can. I can't off the top of my head remember which one that was, but I think it's in the Tate. Yeah, go on.
Yeah. Well, or now another artist that we'll have to dismiss as a cartoonist is Jackson Pollock. I thought you were going to. I thought you were going to say Michelangelo, because you've seen the cartoon and you didn't find it funny. Well, here's what I would like to ask you. If you look at the Mona Lisa or any of Da Vinci's work,
yes,
you see it, and then you don't. What is the resonance with that?
Are you kidding me?
Yes.
Are you actually comparing the Mona Lisa with some cartoon that Banksy stenciled?
Yes, I am, because I think he's had a greater impact. He has had a greater social impact. What do you call
social impact? What is the nature of Banksy's social impact? By what degree has he had a social impact of any kind?
He has brought art to the masses.
Nonsense. That's absolute rubbish.
Oh, come on. I tell you what, Nick, I think that you are secretly a huge fan of Banksy.
Hey, maybe I am Banksy. Did you think of that?
No, I never thought of that.
No, see.
It could be Steve Allen and his Bentley.
Right.
But, no, he's brought art to the masses.
Which is his best work, in your opinion?
I think the stuff that he has done on Gaza, it is so simple, so simply...
Well, like what? Describe one.
The little girl with the balloon.
Right.
And, he has said what it would take Oscar Wilde 2 volumes to write about in one snapshot. And he has made everyone take notice.
Right, so he's a cartoonist. What's the difference between...
He's not
of course he is. What is the difference between him and a political cartoonist in a newspaper who would have done the exact same thing but taken a lot longer time in creating it?
Well, there is some value in that some political cartoonists are in fact artists, and they are geniuses, and the best of them are.
So artists. He's a cartoonist, not an artist.
No, he is an artist. He's a fantastic artist. He's provoking an emotion within the masses. You would have to say then that Picasso was unable to draw. You would say...
Come off it, but I wouldn't say anything of the sort, Brendan. In order to try to win an argument, you're putting an argument in my mouth that does not reside there.
No, but what I'm saying to you is, how can you look at Guernica by Picasso and then look at Banksy's Gaza
and think that Guernica is a better piece of work? How can I do that? Are you kidding me?
What do you mean better? Did it cause an emotion in you? And if it,
All right. Well, okay. All right. I mean, this argument is going nowhere. But his most recent works, as far as I'm aware, was a hippo. A hippo mounting a broken down car. Which I don't really... is that funny? A cat stretching. What did you get from that? The black outline of a cat stretching. What's the significance of that, Brendan?
I don't know.
I don't know either. All right, thanks a lot, mate. Gotta go. 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nicka@lbc.co.uk. If you're on Twitter, it's at LBC. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. Nick Abbott, LBC. It's 11:30, the news headlines with Tim Daly.
This is LBC with Nick Abbott.
Well, the whole world's gone crazy.
Yes, the whole world's gone Banksy crazy. Phil says, although not biologically possible, is Nigel faux rage the love child of Donald Trump and Tucker Carlson? I'm just asking questions, says Phil. Well, I think it's a very reasonable question to ask. I mean, I think it's a bit suspicious that Nigel Farage has not denied that he is the love child of Donald Trump and Tucker Carlson, and we're just asking questions about that.
I'm a nutcase.
That's all. Oh, by the way, how's he working out for you good people of Clacton?
Fabulous.
Has he been round your way lately? This text says, you disrespect a psychology degree. Do you even know what a person has to study to get one? Yes, I've got one. Matt says, is there a YouTube on how to delete my memory of the last 14 years? So far I've been using the Jack Daniels method, but the only thing that's been deleted is my liver. Please advise me on a course of action, says Matt. I think that the memory will fade as time goes on. I mean, already it seems like something of a nightmare that we've all collectively woken up from. Liz Truss let us down, says Lucille. Let's have Newquay. Richard.
Hello.
Yes, Richard.
You all right? How are you?
Good, thanks.
Yeah, I enjoyed listening to the show. I just, I always like to sort of get, well, first of all, on private schools, I mean, I think that, they may have the money to pay to go to them, but I think ultimately if they went to a normal public school, I think they would actually be a lot richer because, they would actually be schooled with normal people, real people. And
how would that make them richer?
Well, because they'd have much better appreciation of life. I think a lot of people that go to private school, I don't think there's any need for it, really. It's a false environment, money's poured in, and ultimately they don't get to see what real life is.
Well, why would they want to see what real life is? I mean, if they start out being born to wealthy parents, then it's entirely probable that they will continue to be wealthy for the rest of their lives. So why would they want to immerse themselves in other people's misery?
Well, yeah, you're probably right. But ultimately, I think I've seen people that are probably just on the fringes of being wealthy, where their parents literally are scraping to send them, and they're the poor relations at private school, and it can't be no fun for them because their mates are off to the Caribbean all the time, and they're holidaying in Croydon.
They're slumming in Spain,
or Spain, I suppose.
Right.
Yeah. So
but that's the case with everywhere you go and everybody you meet. I mean, everyone has different amounts of money, although people who send their kids to the most expensive schools presumably have the finances to be able to easily afford it. Otherwise, they'd choose a less prestigious establishment.
I actually think the cleverest parents, and I know quite a few that have got the money to be able to do it, but they actually send their children to a state school. Yeah. And I think that is
a carefully selected state school that houses in that area are significantly more expensive than ones outside the catchment. Yeah.
Well, to be fair, where I live, there's not that much choice, so you basically have to go to what you've got. Right. But, I think a good school,
But I do believe that if there were no such thing as private schools in this country, that state schools would be better because parents would insist on it. And those upper middle class pushy parents, they get what they want.
Yeah, let's get rid of the state schools, the private schools. There you are. We'll do it. We'll change the country.
Well, I'm not sure that we need to get rid of them. They just don't need to be subsidised by people who can't afford to send their children to them.
Exactly. Quite right. I quite agree with it. Quite agree with that policy. But anyway, what I was phoning up about, that's kind of sidetracking me. I sort of listened to the show, and I think we've got good politicians on all sides. You're sort of quite you haven't got a good word to say about the last 14 years, but
no.
I mean, I remember when Tony Blair was in and Gordon Brown, and I mean, it was absolutely dreadful that when Gordon Brown took over from Tony Blair. And,
by what measure? Dreadful?
Well, I mean, I could see. I was working where I was working, I could see for the previous 5 years how, Tony Blair, Gordon Brown were praising the retail sector, which was basically being backed up by all this debt which everyone was borrowing. And
they were praising the retail sector? What do you mean?
Yeah, so basically at the time they were saying our economy is growing, our GDP is doing well, aren't we doing a wonderful job?
Yeah.
And it's the retail sector that was driving that. So
right, well it always is. I mean, that's how we make our money, people going out and buying things they don't need with money they haven't got.
But I was working in finance, so what I could see at the time...
Finance?
Listen, so basically, in the background, what was going on is everybody was borrowing on their credit cards.
Yeah.
Houses prices were shooting up. Everyone was up in their mortgages and going and buying cars and going on lovely holidays. I thought, well, this is all going to come to an end. And then, of course...
and then it did. Yeah.
And then the financial crisis kicked in, and suddenly they weren't praising it all because all that debt went wrong, and the whole thing crashed.
Well, it's not the debt that people layered on themselves to buy things in shops. I mean, that's just credit card debt.
Oh, it wasn't. No, it wasn't.
The financial crash happened because of banks essentially bankers chasing bonuses. Gave loans to people that they knew couldn't afford to pay them back, and then basically put those loans through a shredder. Not just a shredder
I was dealing with a lot of it.
Right. Not just a shredder that cuts it into strips, but one that cut it into tiny little bits, and then they presented that box of shredded parts to another bank and said, "This is a AAA rated product. You can put your money in this and sleep soundly for the rest of your life." They knew what they did was essentially they dug a hole in a boat, they sold it to somebody unaware, and then took out an insurance policy on that boat sinking.
Yes, I'm aware of that because I was working as a...
No, well, I'm not telling you. I'm telling everybody else.
But the point is, Gordon Brown was presiding over that as Chancellor. He was responsible for the auditing and the Financial Conduct Authority that actually managed the banks and set the policy. So, anyway, but to the point, it was awful. You know what I mean? It's absolutely dreadful.
Well, you're remembering it that way. I think most people who are listening to this show will remember the Blair-Brown years in a completely different way, and they will remember it for the things that they actually relied on, not financial products. They relied on seeing their GP, for instance. They relied on their schools not falling down because they'd covered up the fact that they were made out of aerated concrete. They relied on seeing a consultant before they died. Those kind of things.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I don't think that's going to get any better now, is it? Because
why not?
There's no money. There's no money.
There's always money for things that governments want to do. There's always money. You can borrow and borrow and borrow, and it's all tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow.
Well, I think that was yes, I guess that's... But, I think, there's good politicians on both sides.
Name one. Name one good Tory politician.
Name one good Tory politician?
Yes.
Well, I mean, if I'm honest with you, I think Jeremy Hunt has done a very good job of the economy. I think he was a safe pair of hands after sort of Kwasi Kwarteng and Liz Truss, who I know you spoke a lot about. But, ultimately,
But what did he do? What did he do that recommends him to you so?
Well, I think, the economy was obviously rattled with the decisions that Kwasi
But what did
Kwarteng
he
made.
do in order to recommend him to you?
Well, he settled the economy down. He gave...
How did he do that?
Because he didn't make promises that were unfunded, and also he was seen as a safe pair of hands. And ultimately, whether people like it or not, and the figures came out the other day. Labour's plan is to grow the economy, and which is admirable.
Well, Labour's plan is to grow the economy, and the crucial part is to distribute the wealth not evenly, not even close to evenly, but just a little bit more even than it is now, and than it has been since the 1970s.
Well, I mean, as I said, their plan is to sort of have, they said the strongest growing economy in the G7. Well, actually, they keep telling it.
That's what the Tories used to say all the time, and they left out the part where about us growing from a smaller base, because ours had contracted more than any other country in the G7. So boasting about it getting bigger is a hollow boast indeed. But essentially, you're saying that Jeremy Hunt is, as far as I've heard from you so far, is the only Tory politician that you can name that was actually good. Well, he's the only one. He's the only one that you have named, and he was good because he wasn't as crazy as Liz Truss. Wow, that really is a low bar.
Well, I mean, Liz Truss. I mean, to be fair to Liz, I thought she was a very good foreign secretary, and I think she'd done a good job, and she did bring in a lot of trade as well as trade secretary.
That's
when she went
total nonsense. She did nothing of the sort. What did she do to bring in trade?
I said it was a step too far when she became Prime Minister, and I think she sort of lost it. But I mean, on the Labour side,
at least we can at least we can agree on that, Richard. And sadly, before you start down a path which is just going to end in shouting, that's time. Time's up. 0345 6060 973 LBC.
This is LBC. This is LBC with Nick Abbott.
Hi, Annie. How are you?
I'm super. Thanks for asking. 0345 6060 973. Andrew says, long term, I think it's a good policy to squeeze the private schools a bit. In general, our youngsters should be going through education with other children across the whole social spectrum. It is great preparation for adult life, says Andrew. Is it? I mean, don't the classes pretty much stick to their own? You remember when Titchy Suit Size...
This government...
That guy... He said, famously on that clip that's been around and around social media, he was sitting there like a little princeling on a cushion, saying, I've got middle-class friends, and I've got aristocratic friends, and I've got working-class friends. And then he corrected himself and said, oh, well, actually not working class. And he got it in the neck for that. Well, it's not a good... thing for a Prime Minister to say, but he wasn't a Prime Minister at the time. He was just being truthful. People with loads of money don't mix with people who haven't got any money. Of course they don't, and vice versa. So I'm not sure that it would be a great preparation for adult life, because wealthy people as adults don't mix with poor people as adults. I mean, Rishi Sunak took off as a baby, already on a level above almost all of us, upper middle class. And from taking off from that raised area, he then flew with the super rich for all of his adult life. The only poor people he knows are the ones that bike over a vegan falafel, or whatever it is he eats that has made him so big and strong. So big and strong. Probably a vegan falafel. 0345 6060 973. Maybe you can spend more time on to see if you can find a suit maker that can actually construct him a two-piece in his size. Glasgow, Callum.
Well, I was going to talk about Banksy, but on the whole psychology degree being easy or hard, I've just graduated a couple of months ago with a degree in psychology and statistics, and the psychology bit was so much harder than statistics. So don't be going around telling everybody that it was easy, because I did badly on that, and then I'm going to look stupid. Well, if you think...
You've got your numeracy skills. So you did statistics and psychology, which are subjects that are twinned.
There's a lot of crossover.
Yeah, psychological studies create a lot of numbers, and you need somebody to write them down on a piece of paper or a computer screen, whatever. So you did well on stats, but poorly on the psychology part, right?
Yeah,
I did it
in the psychology that I passed was the statistical element, but that's because there's an actual answer of the average. with the non-statistical part, these dons are coming up with theories.
Yes.
They're just guessing half the time.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you can't validate it with just the numbers. So when we had to write an essay on, what does this don think about how your brain works, the guy doesn't even know himself. Even your lecturer doesn't know how it works.
I know.
So that's why they were giving me bad marks.
Right. Well, I think what you need to become an expert in is BS. And that doesn't work with statistics. Yeah, in my first year, I did a 4-year course, and in my first year there was only one exam, and it was statistics. And you could bring all of your books and your calculator into the exam hall, and I still got a D.
Wow.
So
well,
we are the exact... we're the exact opposite. We are.
BS, is that a coding language or something? Can I do some analysis on it?
No.
No. Well, on the Banksy stuff...
Yes.
That's a bit of BS for you.
Mm-hmm.
I think you shouldn't be whinging that they're so simple. I think it's quite nice that it's just a silhouetted outline. In an instant, you know what the image is. And you've got to remember, this is street art. People are just walking down the street and they'll see out the corner of their eye and they'll look and they'll walk on. So you want it to be like a simple image. And I think he's just trying to have fun. So you'll do these proper images that people think are about war or poverty or whatever. Yeah. And then a couple of weeks later, he'll show, some kittens or whatever. It's just an expression of the world and life. And
I guess,
I think it's cool.
All right. I mean, I would differentiate between what he does and the way people react to it. I guess what I'm talking about is the way people react to it. I mean, essentially what he does hasn't ever changed. He's still doing the exact same thing that he did when Well, I can remember when they first started, and you'd notice the same thing. I can't really recall what they were, but they were quite small, and you'd see them all over the centre of town, and you think, oh, there's that thing again. Wonder what that is. And then suddenly it was all this, this top secret, but nobody knows who he is, and the PR kicked in. So I guess my not objection really, but it sort of rubs me up the wrong way that it gets something that is so simple and so basic and so easily read, just like you described, gets treated like it's high art and is and people are taking parts of buildings down so as not to damage it. I mean, for crying out loud.
Well, I think they should be left on the buildings. And he does have that kind of iconic, simplistic style that's easy to recognise, one of his pieces. But I think the reason why it gets shouted about so much is because a long time street art, like graffiti, was very underground and didn't get enough respect in people's eyes. And then once it started to become cool, people wanted to associate themselves with the new groundbreaking street artists, whatever. And this guy, Banksy, his stuff is not like other sorts of graffiti where it's just a big name that you can't really read or something.
Right.
It's easily accessible. So because of the oncoming wave of street art and its easily accessible images that people start to recognise, we got that name value. And then obviously once it's hype in the art market, it just explodes and inflation of the product happens.
Yeah.
Purely because people go, oh, he's the main man in that scene.
Well, they say that's the brand I recognise. It's a product, essentially. It's the same as a designer putting their logo on a T-shirt. And the T-shirt itself, the actual physical cotton product, is probably worth £1. But you put their logo on it, and it's worth £100.
Yeah, it's what those images sort of represent to people as well. There's sort of an emotional connection with the mystique, I guess, where nobody really knows who he is. Even though you can Google him and know who he is. You can know exactly who he is, yeah. Yes, yeah. Apart from everybody knows who he is. Nobody knows who he is. No, that is right, yeah. All right, good work. Thanks a lot, Callum. Cheers, mate. 0345 6060 973. Nick says, of all the thousands of available hues of green, Liz Truss chose a hue that is the exact colour of a lettuce. Surely even she could have foreseen the ensuing hilarity. I mean, she does seem to be detached from reality, doesn't she? I mean, to be most famous for being compared to a lettuce, and then she goes out, for all intents and purposes, dressed as a lettuce.
And not just to nip down the shops, she appeared on stage dressed as a lettuce in the exact same colour as an iceberg, having famously been compared to it. I mean, I would dress all in brown or black, just anything other than green. But she doesn't seem to, I don't know, there's just something a bit, about her. It's a bit vacant behind the eyes, like nothing's going on back there. I'll say it again. She looks like a shop window mannequin that's been mounted on a robot vacuum cleaner. I mean, she gets around the place right enough, but there doesn't seem to be anything going on behind those eyes. Nothing good, anyway. Probably best not to ask. Let's just assume that it's nothing good and move on. Let's see now. Have I got time for another call? Maybe, just one. Bodmin, hello, Malcolm. Too late. I'll come to you in a moment, Lulu. I know you haven't been waiting for very long. Malcolm, I've been waiting for a very long time, so I am very apologetic about that.
I am very sorry that I screwed up.
Totally screwed up. I am so sorry. You don't know how sorry I am. I'm sorry. This text says, my daughter is autistic and can't survive in a bricks and mortar school. We scrimp and save to pay for her to have a private online school option so she can make the most of her education. Comments that assume all kids at private school are from entitled backgrounds is simply not true. Private school is, yes, a premium product, but for some parents out there, they choose private education over alcohol, takeaways, holidays and fancy cars. Right. A private online school is not a private school, though, is it? I mean, it doesn't have, like you say, bricks and mortar. So I don't really think that that's what we're talking about. Sally says, I play a little game with myself whenever private education is the topic. I allow myself a treat every time the phrase, we've worked hard all our lives, is mentioned. And this is doubled if I also hear scrimping and saving. At this rate, I'm going to be the size of a bus by September. Yeah. And Deb says the only thing with adding VAT onto the private school fees is it will make it even more elitist. Surely this is wrong. No, it is not wrong. I cannot get past people who can't afford to send their children to private school are subsidising those that can. I mean, that is quite properly mad. And that we've allowed ourselves to be hoodwinked like this and gaslit about, it's just, we must protect these because it's, brings in a lot of money. And it's the same argument, and it's the same people using the argument as those who say, well, we can't tax wealth because they're the wealth creators. So, we can't go after the super rich. We can't ask billionaires if they wouldn't be so nice as to pay some taxes every now and again, because they'll leave. As though, how many people are on this planet? 7-8 billion people can't figure out some way to stop a handful of the most spectacularly rich people who have ever lived from stealing their money. There's got to be a way. But these people pretend that there isn't. It's impossible. We can't tax wealth. It can't be done because they will leave. Well, they won't leave the planet, will they? We should just make it impossible for them to extricate their money and go and hide it in some tax haven somewhere. I mean, that surely is not beyond the wit of man, is it? 0345 6060 973. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. Nick Abbot, LBC.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
Leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC. This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Nick Abbot.
Yeah!
I would say he's incompetent, but I don't want to do that because that's not nice.
Thanks, Donny. Thanks for being nice. Russia calling Ukraine terrorists. I mean, it's this sort of whining victimhood. It seems to run through a lot of, wannabe tough guy dictator types. Like Donald Trump.
Whinging and whining and moaning.
Constantly whinging and whining. Oh, they switched out Joe Biden. It's so unfair. And Vladimir Putin, I mean, the nerve of the man. It's like walking up to somebody in a bar and punching them repeatedly in the face, and when they put their hands up to protect themselves, then you call the police on them. And petrol, £1.43 a gallon. And that's cheap.
What?
It doesn't sound very cheap to me. Sounds pretty expensive to me, actually. I mean, really. They're still making boatloads of money at our expense. Don't you worry about that. Those fossil fuel purveyors will be just fine. Rochester. Hello, Lulu. Lulu. Hello,
Nick, darling.
Hello, Lulu.
Hello.
Lulu.
Oh, hello. Nick, I might just pop out and buy some petrol.
Why not?
Delicious petrol. So look, Nick, I know you've probably done Liz Truss to death tonight, but I've been out and I've just got home, so I've got to say my piece about her.
Go ahead.
What? This woman who has never knowingly been right about anything in her whole entire life in America, shilling for Trump.
Yes.
Led by donkeys, pulled that stunt. And, she could have actually done herself a big favour. If she made some self-deprecating remark, she might have gone up in people's estimation a tad.
Well, the only way is up in most people's estimation. The only way is up.
No.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. I see her and I think, are you still talking?
Yes.
Ridiculous creature. I mean, honestly, if any normal person had crashed the economy of the fifth richest country in the world, you would never leave your house again, would you?
You would.
So mortified.
Yes, you would do a lot of work for charity and try to inveigle your way back into some people's good books. I mean, you're not going to have great success with most of the population because you're a catastrophic failure. But at least you could try by doing good work, not by doubling down and saying that that I was right all along, and it was the lefty communist banks that brought me down. That is basically her argument, that the lefty communists of the financial sector ruined her attempt to be our Prime Minister.
Oh, she's ludicrous. And I mean, I would love to see the audience she's speaking to in America to see how many actually sat there listening to her drivel.
I think that you could waltz in, Lulu. There'd be plenty of empty seats. Sit wherever you like.
I think so, Nick. I think so. And what do you think about a 1% wealth tax on the wealthiest people in this country? That would raise $90 billion, apparently, I heard today. I'm up for that. Are you?
Yes. Now, that will get the usual suspects frothing at the mouth saying, well, you can't do that because they'll all leave. Well, first of all, I don't believe that they will all leave. And second of all, it cannot be impossible if they leave, to leave the wealth that they created from the people in this country, to leave that wealth here. Why are they allowed to just take it away?
Yeah. And, I just don't buy this that they'll all leave. I mean, it's just an empty threat. And if they want to leave, who cares? They're not contributing much anyway.
They're not doing any of us a favour, no, because all they do is raise the price of the things that they want, which then trickles down. I mean, the price of champagne, for instance, is about double what it was in recent memory. Now, that might not affect most of us on a daily basis, but it trickles down. For those who used to be able to afford champagne, now they're buying Cava, so the price of that's gone up. And people who used to buy Cava are now buying flat wine or Asti Spumante or other products are available.
Ghastly.
Yeah.
I prefer Carver to Champers, actually. I have got to be honest. I mean, I've had some Champers. I mean, unless you're talking Laurent Perrier, which is divine, your Aldi £10 bottle of Champers.
Yeah.
Great.
Your phone is cutting out every now and again. I think you maybe need to put the champagne back on the shelf and save up for a better phone.
I'll do that.
Yeah. All right, good work. Thanks a lot, Lulu. Cheers, my dear. 0345 6060 973. Yeah, billionaires who leave, so what? All they do is put up the price of everything that we rely on, the price of property. For instance, I mean, we're not in the market for a £10 million an abode in Mayfair. But like the champagne example, the people that used to afford that used to be doctors, for crying out loud. Your GP used to be able to live in Chelsea or Mayfair. Now they haven't got a hope. So they moved out to Wandsworth. And the people who used to be able to buy in Wandsworth, they've been pushed out to Peckham and etc. and so on. So they just raise the price of everything and contribute nothing. And they will say, oh, well, my workers pay tax. Well, that's nice. They have no choice because it gets taken out of their wage before they get it. And the exact same people are complaining about the pay awards that have been announced. Some of them have been announced. And they're saying that the Labour government is throwing money at its union paymasters. Yeah, which is not true, but it would be true if you replaced the Tory government threw money at its billionaire paymasters. That would be true. The Labour government was today claimed to be throwing money at its union paymasters like confetti after agreeing a bumper pay deal with train drivers. I think it was Ian Duncan Smith who said that. I mean, really. There's another one who could do with a while of quiet reflection. But like Liz Truss, he and all of the rest of them, they seem to be addicted to the sound of their own voice. They should get a show like this. It's not even that. They seem to have not skipped a beat after the election and still just assume that we've made a mistake and will be punished for it, for our error in chucking them out, and then crawl across the carpet begging them to retake our country. We will apologise for our mistake and accept that they were born to rule. There seems to be a dissonance there. They haven't quite got on board with their new reality. They're not running things anymore. It's just that their brain hasn't told them that yet. Sally says, my kids managed to do their GCSEs and A-levels and got good... Sully says, my kids managed to do their GCSEs and A-levels and got good degrees. All are maths, physics related. Can you imagine? But how often did I have to explain maths at GCSE level because their teacher did not have the ability to explain it properly? Yes, they got it when I broke it down for them, says Sully. As for me, I flunked my maths in school. My teacher was pretty useless in explaining, but I taught myself thereafter. I did a business course. I started up my own business, did my own taxes. My accountant, who I used to double-check my work before the taxman saw it, never found a mistake. Maybe maths teachers, at least some, still lack the ability to explain it in ways non-brain boxes can get, says Sully. Right. Well, I know that there's a shortage of maths teachers and physics teachers. And people who signed up to teach games, for instance, will find themselves the next day in front of a class full of people teaching the three different types of average. Median, mode, and... can't remember the other one. I fail. I'll see them after class. Thank you, sir. May I have another? Richard says, surprise, surprise, a Banksy piece of art was nicked from Peckham within 24 hours. Yeah, what are you going to do with it? I mean, what can they do with it? Too famous to sell, you're going to lean it against the wall and look at it. And then what? It's a cat stretching. So what? Don't get it. I mean, I do get it, but that's the point. You get it too quick. Okay, here we go. Just as I predicted, I know where this was going. Walsall, hello, Mick.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thanks.
Yeah, I was saying that he was on about the rich people wouldn't leave. But if I won the Euro tonight, which I probably won't, I would be out of this country quicker than you could say Jack.
Why?
Because I wouldn't trust the Labour Party with it. I wouldn't trust them to run a bath.
Why is that?
Never trusted the Labour Party.
Yeah, but why though?
Never have.
I mean, you've obviously come to a very, very strong. You've come to a very strong opinion about the Labour Party. This must be based on experience. So, what experience do you have of the Labour Party ruining everything?
I just don't like a government that's basically run by the unions.
Okay, what evidence do you have that the government? What evidence do you have that the government is run by the unions? But even if it were true, even if it were true, and the Labour Party is run by the unions represent millions of people. They are representing people who make the backbone of this country. Without the people who work for unions, this country would not work. The Conservative Party, on the other hand, their donors you could count on the fingers of two hands, pretty much. So would you rather a political party was running the country for the benefit of 10 people or 10 million people?
I don't know what it is. It's just something about that party, not the old one.
Okay, well then you're making no sense, Mick. You don't know why, but that's the way you feel. That's just, I mean... You've just admitted that you haven't thought about it. So why would your opinion have any value? Has a very, very strong and firm belief that the Labour Party ruins the country. Can't think of a single example other than they work for the interests of millions of people. I think you need to get off the internet, Mick. It's not doing you any good. Just burst that bubble you're in. 0345 6060 973 LBC.
This is LBC. Nick Abbott on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
And remember, darling, I don't work before 10 in the morning and never after 4:30 in the afternoon.
Those are the regulations as set down by my union. The Labour government was today claimed to be throwing money at its union paymasters like confetti after agreeing a bumper pay deal with train drivers. Train drivers. And the people claiming that, of course, are Tory politicians and their enablers who spent the last 14 years throwing money at their friends and donors after agreeing that they were worth it. The nerve they've got. Minister struck a deal with ASLEF union chiefs which will see the average driver's salary soar by 14% to about £69,000, including overtime by 2025. Now, take into account that inflation has, over the last couple of years, reached about 14%, the things that we actually buy on a regular basis, and so they'll actually be making nothing in real terms. And it'll take them 2 years to do it. Doesn't sound so generous, does it? This, says the Mail, would ensure that drivers receive more than double the average pay of prison officers, construction workers and postal workers, each one on there or thereabouts £30,000 a year. Which, and you see that argument a lot. Oh, look at train drivers, they're earning £69,000. Look at the poor postal workers, they're only earning £29,000. But it's not a reason that the train drivers should not be paid that much. It's a reason for prison officers, construction workers and postal workers to be paid a decent similar wage for their efforts. Isn't it? Other comparative figures based on Office for National Statistics mean pay data for 2023 include couriers at 25,000, nursery workers at 34,000, librarians 36, that. Librarians. Are there any more libraries now?
No.
I didn't think there were. I thought the Tories had shut them all for our convenience. Libraries, a librarian, 36 grand. Community nurses, 37,000. Midwives, 40. And police officers, 43,000. And you know what? All of those people are being ripped off. They're having their good nature taken advantage of, and they're suffering because of it, while the owners and the CEOs of private companies award themselves seven-figure pay deals, a chauffeured car, huge pension contribution, discount on a house, and a bonus for excellence in being them. You know, but they're worth it. You never hear of the chief executive officer of some failing or flatlining corporation getting huge pay deals and golden hellos and goodbyes.
Hello.
No, because they don't report that. But that happens all the time. And when one CEO of a failing corporation has earned £100 million driving that corporation into the dirt, they'll just fly off with a seven-figure bonus and alight in another similar job to do the same thing again for another 100 million quid. And the reason that they're earning so much is because they spend so little on... in this country, we are abysmal at spending money on training workers and research and development and infrastructure within the company, you know, machinery, that sort of thing, which is why we have such low productivity in this country. It's not because and that always gets blamed on workers. Oh, it's because you're all slacking. It's because is the reason we have low productivity. Our workers come in at noon, and then they put their feet up and smoke a cheroot for 3 hours while making a cup of tea. And then they'll go to work between 3 and past and call that a day. But that's complete rubbish. People are working flat out in this country and are not getting anywhere because the owners of the means of production are taking all of the cash that in other better run countries would be spent on research and development and driving the company forward. But because CEOs usually spend about 5 years in a company making 100 million quid, they're not really interested in the future of the company. They don't care. They want results right now. They want to give shareholders massive returns immediately. And that kicks in their bonus. I mean, it's all connected. It's not by accident. The system is built that way, so that those at the very, very top reap all of the rewards, and those underneath get nothing at all and are blamed for the failure of that business. And every time a Labour government gets in, you could set your watch by it. Various Tories will say all of this. Oh, well, under a Labour administration, they're just throwing all of this money around like a drunken soldier. Actually, it's drunken sailor. I don't know why sailors are considered more spendthrift. Anyway. All you get in the right-wing press is attacks on the miserably paid workers at the bottom of the pile, slackers and shirkers. And the idea of taxing the wealth of the wealthiest 1% is written up like it's the fall of capitalism. And it comes after the brand new government signed a 5.5 pay increase for most other public sector workers. And then they tell us how much it's going to cost. Estimated to cost taxpayers £9.4 billion. Ministers have also offered junior doctors a 22% pay hike at an extra cost of £1.1 billion. And then they clutch their hankies to their chests and go into a Victorian fainting fit, complaining that we can't afford it. And those numbers are deliberately made up by people who know better but hope you don't. Because, of course, every pay packet comes with tax taken off. So with all the tax associated, both direct and indirect, about half of this so-called pay rise comes back to the Treasury as tax. And what do those people do with the rest of their wage? They spend it. Unlike the super rich, that were the beneficiaries of the Tory regime who don't spend what vast sums they got from Tories' tax cuts and subsidies and handouts. They got so much money that a little bit more is not going to affect their spending habits. It just sits on a computer screen in a tax haven, collecting interest. Give £1,000 to a rich person and they'll just put it in the bank and forget about it. If you give £1,000 to a poor person, they'll go out and spend every single penny, mostly locally, by which method that money will circle around a virtuous economy. But you just can't tell people this stuff. It's like they put their fingers in their ears and as soon as somebody hints at the prospect of socialism or spreading the wealth out a bit, and this blows my mind, particularly those who would most benefit, they seem to be the most vociferous about denying the prospect and the possibility of some kind of wealth tax. Whoa, that's politics of envy, that is. Hey, sheeple, wake up, it's later than you think. So the government signed off 5.5% pay increase for most other public sector workers, which is actually, as far as inflation is concerned, it means it's a pay cut, not an increase. But even then, those with all the money are complaining about that. And, last year inflation was 11%. That's the official figure. But it's actually more than that for the things that most people buy most of the time. But let's settle on 11%. So if a public sector worker gets 5.5%, it's not a pay rise. Their spending power has gone down, not up. It's a pay cut, which is what the working person has become used to. I mean, the billionaire class has not had to get used to reductions in their income. The Equality Truss in 2022 found that the wealth of the UK's billionaires went up over 1,000% between 1990 and 2022. Went up £600 billion. And the number of billionaires went up from 15 in 1990 to 177 in 2022. And between 2020 and 2022 alone, billionaire wealth increased by about £150 billion. That we're allowed the very richest few to accrue such a staggering amount of the nation's wealth since 1990 is a national disgrace, so said Joe Whittams, co-executive director of the Equality Trust. The UK's record on wealth inequality is appalling, grossly unjust, and presents a real threat to our economy and our society. Yeah, you can't tell me that didn't have something to do with the riots that we just had in this country. It's because people are justifiably angry at being left behind. It's just that we've had 14 years of being gaslit as to the reasons for that. The people picking your pockets are telling you that it's actually not them that are picking your pockets, even though you can see them doing it. They're telling you that it's strangers who are coming from over there. I mean, you haven't met them yet, but they're the ones that are actually picking your pockets, not me with my hand in your pocket at this moment. Gaslighting. Joe Whittams, executive director of or co-executive director of the Equality Trust, said every year we're invited to celebrate the very richest individuals and families in the UK, while food bank usage continues to increase. 3.9 million children are living in poverty. 6.7 million households struggle to heat their homes. That the two sides of these are the two sides of the same coin is very rarely mentioned. That's right. Yet we know that inequality is not inevitable. The right policies can have a positive impact. We call on the government to tax wealth in line with incomes, reform the financial sector, and end the UK's role in tax avoidance. Yeah, that's what we do for a living. Wash clean the ill-gotten gains of the international criminal super-rich. How embarrassing is that? 2/3 of the British public agree that ordinary working people do not get their fair share of the nation's wealth, and it's time for the government to take action. And that was said in 2022. The Equality Trust. And it looks like this government is taking action, spreading the wealth around just a bit, tiny bit. Not going to inconvenience any billionaire. They'll be just fine. I mean, if you've got £150 billion in the bank and you get taxed at 1%, then you're still going to be able to afford dinner from now until the end of time and beyond. So, yeah, the new regime is spreading the wealth around just a little bit, and the super wealthy and their paid-for politicians and the lackey right-wing media are whining so loud you could hear them from space.
Stop whining.
Stop whining. But they won't. You know they won't. 0345 6060 973. Hey, let me take this opportunity to remind you that I do a podcast with Carol McGiffin.
Oh, right, yeah.
It's a problem-solving podcast. Now, the idea is that we solve people's problems while laughing our faces off. If you have a dilemma that you want us to solve, then you must send it to the following address, nickandcarol@global.com. That's nickandcarol@global.com. But you must prepare to be totally satisfied.
Oh, right, yeah.
Ask for it by name. On an internet near you, what's your problem with Nick and Carol? Comes out twice a week, Mondays and Fridays. I think there's over 150 episodes up there. No, I think there's maybe 250. Blimey, that's more episodes than there are of Friends. We've done very well. And we haven't killed each other yet. So, there's that. What's Your Problem with Nick and Carol is available on an internet near you. I guarantee it. 0345 6060 973. It's 12:30 on LBC, the news headlines with Tim Daly.
This is LBC with Nick Abbott. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
Are you trying to be funny? Because I'm all out of laughs.
No, there's nothing funny about it. Iris texts, awful, isn't it? All those rich pensioners need to help pay the train drivers. A good way to redistribute wealth. I'm getting sarcasm in there. I don't know. No, the word rich is throwing me off, because if Iris had said, awful, isn't it? All those pensioners need to help pay the train drivers, as in, taking away their fuel allowance. But the one does not necessarily lead to the other. You don't get you don't put the money in a box from the savings on giving pensioners a winter fuel allowance, those who can get by without it, which there are certainly a large number. It doesn't directly go to the train drivers. So, I don't know, maybe it is just to be read as written, and there's no side to it. This text says, if you give money to irresponsible people, they squander it. All right, okay. By irresponsible, you mean poor, needy. They don't squander it, they spend it. If you give money to rich people, they squander it. And what are they going to buy? Another boat. Going to buy another Bentley. They'll buy a box of stupidly expensive wine. Or they'll go to a restaurant in London's fashionable Mayfair and spend 50 quid on a plate of food. That sounds like squandering to me. Let's see now. South London, that's very vague. Hello, Charlotte.
Hello.
Charlotte. Charlotte.
Hello?
Yes, Charlotte.
It is.
It is what?
My name, sorry. I thought that's what you were saying.
Yes, Charlotte.
I thought I would, I just heard you talk about private school. My kids went to private school. I'm not a wealthy person. I was a single mother raising 3 mixed-race children. And they went to a very unique, it was a boarding school. And the only reason I sent them there, actually, is because when I looked around the school, I thought, wow, I could have gone here. It was just so amazing.
Yeah.
And it's been around for 500 years. The school uniform, they still wear Tudor gowns and DMs, and they march into school every day because it was set up originally for orphans.
This is Eton.
Pardon?
You're talking about Eton?
No, I'm not.
Harrow?
No.
Well, I give up.
Christ Hospital.
Right.
I'm
unfamiliar with its work, but I'm sure they're excellent in every regard.
No, it's a really nice school because there is such, what I was going to say to you, there is such a mix of rich and poor, and black and white, which was really important to me, I have to say. And they all did really well there.
Well,
and,
that's super.
And yeah, no, so it's, my son initially, it was difficult to get in, and my son didn't initially, which was very upsetting. However, then got in at sixth form and went on to win, and he taught himself Spanish, I have to say, went on to win national Spanish debating champion, which was amazing. So there was lots of, they were presented with lots of opportunities.
Wait a minute, he taught himself Spanish, so it didn't have anything to do with the school.
Apparently something called coffee break Spanish.
Right, I don't know.
I don't know, it's a podcast to you.
Well, so how much did it cost this school?
Well, this is it. If you're rich, it's $33,000 a year. But what they do is they work it out on your earnings, your mortgage, and they look. So it sort of varies every year, but you have to submit all your money, and that is so. Education was a priority for me, I have to say, which it isn't for people.
Okay, well that sounds like it sounds like a lottery. If you get lucky, then you get an excellent education and you bound past those who have not been so lucky. I don't really understand what the benefit of that to the wider community.
It took a lot of research, and there was a lot of letter writing or whatever, and I was willing to do that.
Right, well, okay, well that's great for the kids that are lucky enough or rich enough to go there, but how about the rest of us?
Well, I've got a single mum with 3 kids. I had no money.
No, you got lucky.
Why did I get lucky then?
Well, how did they win a place?
Because they in exam terms, they had to do exams.
Right.
And interestingly, the 2 girls got in, and my son didn't, which I was very upset about at the time. But when he got to sixth form, he went to a state school. And again, at the state school he went to, there was an amazing music teacher, so amazing, who really helped my son.
Right, well, he was lucky to get in under the wire, because most schools don't have music teachers. They haven't got instruments. They've got no... it's not part of the curriculum.
Absolutely, and it should be.
Of course.
It was really special for my son to...
Yeah, but like I said, you got lucky. It doesn't help any of the rest of the 60 million people in this country that didn't get lucky. Well, of course they got lucky. How else did they get in?
I don't think so. I got resourceful and I researched. Some people aren't prepared to do that.
All right, well, Charlotte, they got lucky by having a resourceful parent who did a lot of research on their behalf. Most people don't do that. They just or don't realise that they have the opportunity to do that. And I don't know how big this school is, the school I've never heard of before, but it can't be that big. And so the number of people that go there that are actually not paying the full whack must be minuscule compared to, let's say, the state sector.
It's brilliantly. It's supported by livery companies in London, because it's been around for so long.
Right, well, you're not selling it to me. The basic principle is, why should people who are lucky for one reason or another get leave school many steps up the ladder than everybody else in the same country? Why?
I really disagree with you, Nick. I don't think it was about luck at all.
Everything you've described to me so far is luck, Charlotte. And that's part of the issue of it. People who have immense luck refuse to accept that they are in fact lucky. People who have become billionaires because they had they met a guy and they had an idea together, and then they made a product that the whole world fell in love with, and now they're worth £100 billion, and there wasn't a single solitary sliver of luck to had anything to do with any of it. But of course there was. Did you get born with all of your limbs? That was luck. Did you get born a healthy baby? That was luck. Did you get born to parents who loved you and were interested in your future? That was luck. Did you go to a school where the other kids were actually interested in learning rather than rioting in the class so that the teacher couldn't handle it? That was luck. Did you meet somebody who introduced you to somebody who knew a friend who had an idea or had a warehouse that they weren't using or an office or were interested in giving you £100 to start your business? That was luck. Everything about life is luck. But the more fortunate people are, the less likely they are to admit that. Drives me nuts. Anyway, Charlotte, I wish you and your offspring all the very best. I'm sure they'll do just fine in Spanish or any other language. 0345 6060 973. Let's have Aberdeen. Iris.
Hi.
Iris.
You are in a bad mood tonight, aren't you?
Am I?
Yeah. You're yapping on like a God knows what.
Mm-hmm.
If you know what yapping is.
No, it's a new one on me. Never heard that word before.
It's a word from God's own country.
Yeah, well, I grew up in God's own country. I've never heard that word.
Where did you grow up?
Edinburgh.
That's damn near England.
Oh, Iris. The things you say.
Well, it's true. Edinburgh is the posh, so you're as posh as the rest of them, and if you grew up in Edinburgh.
Iris, have you ever been to Edinburgh?
Yes, darling.
Right, and you're telling me that Edinburgh is posh, all of it?
Oh, no, well, it's a dash sight posher than the place I came from, where I was born.
Right. If you say so.
I can tell you so. I mean, I was brought up, we had no running water or electricity until I was 10 and a half.
You were living in a paper bag in middle of road.
No,
and you had to get up 3 hours before you went to bed and lick road clean with tongue.
No, darling, I was born in the Orkney Islands.
Right, well, that sounds lovely.
No, it was a very hard upbringing.
If you say so.
Yeah, I know. You really are. You've got up the wrong side of the bed tonight.
No, I'm just fine. I just don't agree with people.
No, I normally love your show and always listen to you, but you sound like an ill-tempered brat tonight. I'm sorry.
Right, because I said something that you don't agree with. And what was that?
No, it's just your general attitude. It's just everybody's wrong and nobody's worked hard.
No, Iris, not everybody is wrong. The people that are wrong are wrong.
Which is, as far as you're concerned, damn near everybody at the moment.
Well, only people that have called this show and are saying things that are wrong. I mean, do you want me to just agree with everybody so that we'll all just get along?
No, but I don't know. You're just not your normal jovial self. You've got a bitter edge tonight, and it's just not good.
I think that...
And I was just going to phone you up and give you I just sent you a text giving you a hard time when you were going all about all these rich millionaires and all the rest of it, which I quite agree with, by the way. Oh. But you have steadfastly refused to say anything about the poor sodden pensioners who've lost 300 quid when they're earning about 12.5 grand.
Well, what do you want me to say?
Well, you could have said that was a bit mean.
Well, I think that the pension that we dole out in this country is mean. It doesn't even cover it. It's abysmally small. And
the government's just taken another £300 off it.
And it shames this country that we treat old people as we do.
Yeah, but most of us most of us are pretty feisty.
Right.
I mean, it's and as an ex-teacher, and when I was teaching, which was probably before you were born, the smallest class I had was 39.
Yeah.
And the last class I had before I left was 45.
Right, which is way too many.
No, it wasn't.
Yes, it is.
I can promise you, every single kid in my class got individual treatment every single day.
Yeah, well, that's impossible. How could they? How long did you teach a class for? Or was it all day long, the same class?
Yes, I was a primary teacher. I did not aspire to the heights of being a secondary teacher.
That is
because
different.
In Scotland, you can't teach secondary without a degree.
Okay, so that's different. I mean, all you're teaching is finger painting and...
Yes, that's right.
Stuff like that, yeah.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. That's why I also concentrate and do painting and all sorts of things myself as well.
Finger painting, yeah.
No, brush. We're very sophisticated up here.
Is that right?
We've got brushes.
You are so sophisticated, Iris. Everybody says that.
Beyond all things.
All of our imaginings.
Very sophisticated.
Yeah.
And on it, as well as using brushes, I use paint.
Paint too?
To paint pictures. Isn't that clever?
Of what?
Well, I'm afraid I'm one of the old school. I do birds of prey and I do pictures that actually look like what I'm painting.
What they are, yeah. Well,
I can't do the abstract stuff, I'm afraid.
If you could just do a black silhouette of a cat stretching, you could sell that for £1 million, Iris.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry. I must admit, when I took my husband and I went to have you heard of the big art gallery in Tasmania? The big famous one?
Tasmania?
Yeah.
No. No, I haven't, no.
Well, you should look it up.
I most certainly will do nothing of the sort.
We went out there when we were down in Tasmania, and we went to 2 art places in Tasmania. The one is carving. It's about 300 metres long, and it's a relief carving of the life in Tasmania, and it gives you goosebumps. It is amazing. We then went to this modern art gallery, and I had to spend the entire hour kicking my husband. He came out, what the hell's that?
Right. A child of 10 could have done that sort of thing.
Oh, that would be an insult to a child of 10. To compare, but just if you've got a spare time, look in on something, no, seriously, something called The Wall in Tasmania.
Tasmania. If I've got a spare moment, pop down to Tasmania.
No, I'm saying look it up.
Right.
And you will see what beautiful art is.
That sounds very much like homework, and this being the weekend, I'm certainly not going to do that.
Well, you see, that's what's wrong with people nowadays. They can't be asked to do anything, can they?
I know that's what's wrong with me.
Well, that's it. But at least you're a bit more chuckly now than you were earlier on.
Well, that's the beauty that is Iris.
Well, this is it.
There you go.
See, I said to myself, if my kids had grumped like that, I'm old enough to have kids that have gotten a smack in the back of the knee and told it.
Right, I'm calling social services, Iris.
Exactly.
The next call you make will be from jail.
Well, this is it. But, they'll have to go to Australia to find the child that I smacked, so I'm safe enough.
I guess so. Yeah. All right.
I
okay.
don't think they'll go all the way there.
Not all the way there. Not just for that.
Stop being so grumpy.
Okay, you can leave that with me. Thanks a lot, Iris. Cheers, my dear. 0345 6060 973. Who, me?
This is LBC with Nick Abbott. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
Come on, we're running late.
0345 6060 973. This says, why can't the heating help for my nan be means tested? She doesn't need the help, but her friends do. I thought it was essentially means tested because you will get a winter fuel payment if you are on benefits of some sort, or you get pension credit. So doesn't that mean it is means tested? But having said that, I do believe that the pension that we have, the state pension in this country, is abysmally low. It's about half what it should be. I mean, you work all your life, you pay into the system. If there was a private company that took so much money and delivered you such a pitifully small pension at the end of your working life, then they'd be out of business right now because nobody would invest with them. Rich says, Rachel Reeves is the worst Chancellor in history. Pensioners need the fuel allowance. Just because they are not on benefits, they still need it, says Rich. Well, the ones that need it, but the ones that don't. I mean, there's no end of pensioners in this country who live in a life of Riley, whoever that was. Somebody should look into that. Who was Riley, and what kind of life did he live? How could he afford it? Paul says, Starmer is doing to the country what he did to the party, and we tried to warn the country, but were dismissed as Corbyn cultists, says Paul. Talking about being shot by both sides, which was one of my favourite singles of all time.
Rock and roll!
Magazine, for those taking notes. He's barely got his knees under the desk, and already everything that is wrong with this country is his fault. I knew that would happen. Wanstead, hello, Sophie.
Hi, Nick. How are you?
I am great, mate.
I don't think you're being disagreeable today.
I didn't think either, no. I mean, I disagreed with some people, but that doesn't make me disagreeable.
You're disagreeable to the people who don't agree with you.
No, I don't think that's right. I disagree with the people that don't agree with me, but that doesn't make me disagreeable.
Well, you're offensive to them, but you're not a disagreeable person.
I'm offensive to them.
No. People with sort of prejudicial or bigoted views or narrow views. I mean, because you're quite enlightened, and obviously, if they don't...
I have seen the light.
If you don't agree with their views, that's a problem for them.
Right. Well, yeah, because that's what this show is. It's not call in and I'll agree with any nonsense that happens to drip from your lips. That's not the game here.
And that's why we love the show, Nick.
Right.
And before I go on to my main point...
And another thing, yes.
About education, it's your birthday soon, isn't it?
It's my birthday soon. That's right. Well spotted, that woman. And I can do anything I want at the run-up to my birthday.
And we'll all eat a slice of cake for you on the day.
On the day, yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Now,
you're going to have a lot of cake left over, though, if you just eat it on the day.
Yes, one slice. We'll buy one slice.
Okay.
But I will remember to wish you a happy birthday. But the lady who couldn't understand, and I'm sure she's a very nice person, what you were saying about it's just pure luck.
Yeah.
It's just pure luck that you're a young person born into a well-to-do or wealthy family or comfortably off family who can afford tutoring maybe, who can afford the fees for tutoring.
And who are interested in their children, apart from anything else. I mean, you know, some parents are heroin addicts and they just lie about the place doing nothing. So, and that has nothing to do with a child other than it being lucky or not.
Exactly. And there are so many barriers that these young people have to overcome living in the difficult circumstances that they're enduring. And people who are lucky enough, and it is luck, to send their children to a good school have absolutely no idea. Now, I am telling my students a lie effectively, but I believe in the promise of my students, and I'll do my darndest to get them through their exams and their GCSE English.
Hang on a minute. What lie are you telling them?
So, by saying to students, oh, you can achieve anything you want, the world is your oyster.
That
yes,
lie.
That's all true. Yes, it's true.
Yeah.
But as an adult, I can see that they will have more obstacles in their way than someone who was sent to Eton, for example.
Of course.
Because the system is built to
maintain wealth in the hands of those who already have it.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. And it's a segregated educational system.
Right.
And having worked in schools for 21 years, I really now, hand on heart, think we should get rid of grammar schools. I'm not a socialist. We should get rid of private schools because everyone has to start at the same starting point.
I think it's inconceivable that state schools would not improve massively if rich people had no choice but to send their children there.
Absolutely. absolutely. And you have to remember, some people might not know, all teachers are trained in the state system. They elect to go into the private system that has more pastoral care, extracurricular activities, smaller classes. You know, they have so many more advantages. And I absolutely praise every single student who comes from a difficult, quote-unquote, background, but who gets to the point that the one from Eton got to.
Right.
I think we need to desegregate the educational system by getting rid of grammar schools and private schools. I really do, because it's just not fair to say that to students, say that to young people, the world is your oyster, but the subtext in my head is, but you're going to have to jump through so many hoops to get to that point.
Yeah.
I think it's
the world may be your
wrong.
oyster, but you won't be able to afford to eat oysters. You'll be on a bit of dried bread and some water.
Exactly. Now, I don't care if my students come from Eton or East End. I'm going to make sure they get through their GCSE English exam. But we are supporting a system that is unfair to our young people, and we need to get rid of it.
It cements in place the inequality that goes through this country like words through Brighton Rock. Yeah. The truth is that if you were not born rich, it is vanishingly unlikely you will ever be rich. You will mostly be about as well off as your parents forever, because that's the way the system has been built. And, of course, all of the rules are written by people like this.
I don't know anything.
Who doesn't know anything. Sophie, got to go. Thanks for that. And the upside to this is that we're all incredibly lucky because we live in this country. I know there are some problems, and it could be better. But I do believe that we've turned a corner, and better things might be just over the horizon. Let's all hold hands and skip there together, eh? Holding hands is optional. So is skipping. If you missed any of tonight's show, you can listen back on Catch Up on Global Player, the official LBC app. This and the Saturday night shows get put up the internet as a podcast. We take the news and most of the ads out, which will give you more time to contemplate just how lucky you are. If you have Global Player, that's fine. It's on there. It's called Nick Abbot, the Whole Show podcast. If you don't have Global Player, it's free. Get it from your App Store or globalplayer.com. I'll be back tonight at 10. Coming up at 4, Ollie Dugmore. But first, Clyde Ball. 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 But first.
In a rhythm of arts, a bond that never falls apart. Through the highs and through the lows, together our connection grows. Our connection grows. From childhood dreams to grown-up schemes, we navigate life's endless streams. Hand in hand we face the night. Side by side we find the light.